Here's Haliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Let me tell you this. I love going out. You know that, right? I love going out, and I'm in Carmel today. Actually, I should say this. We are in Carmel today. In fact, Crafters in Carmel on 146 is our location, and it opens up at 3. So as we open up, people are coming in, and we'd love to see you here, because we have the samples on our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila shots Thursday. Final regular season weekend of the NFL. And believe me, we have a great deal of ground to cover as well. And we'll get him back on here because he is going to be officially back this week from vacation. Brent Holverson, our betting analyst, in just a second with thoughts on last week while he was gone. And a shout-out to Romy, who was in for Brent last week and did a great job as well. Shout out to, by the way, too, shout out to Romy and Sarah for the food event on Sunday night on the JMV Takeover. Thank you very much, my brother. I appreciate that. By the way, JMV Takeover has moved from Saturday to tomorrow night. Remember that. JMV Takeover tomorrow night. Here's what happens. I get a Bud Light Blue Friday tomorrow inside Bottle Works in the garage. And after we give away tickets to the Texans-Colts game on Saturday and do all that, I'm going to bail, and we are going to be hanging. We're going to be together on B1057 and doing the JMV Takeover tomorrow night. And I'm assuming probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 o'clock or so is when I'll be ready to rock. And, you know, since we subtract an hour because they don't start at 6, we'll fire that bad boy up until about 1 in the morning, something like that, and have a good time. I'll also explain to you how you can catch, because there is so much going on Saturday, how you can catch the Ride to Kickoff beginning at 4:30 inside the Bullseye Event Center, and where you go to hear the Pacers, which will be right here, and then where you're going to go to hear the Colts, which will be on 97.1 Hank FM. But it all will be easy. And here's the thing. Rest assured, you will absolutely love. Now, we'll see if the teams win to back that up and how you feel on Sunday, and then when we talk on Monday. But Saturday is going to be absolutely electric downtown. Somebody mentioned this a little bit earlier to me. You know, you got all this going on. How is it? It probably wears you out. These are the days in which you want to do this job more so than any other day. You want the activity. You want the action. That's what you get. That is going to be a hellaciously awesome time coming up on Saturday. And, of course, we want you to be a part of it. Bullseye Event Pass is coming up a little bit later on, too. We'll give those away as I'll be broadcasting live beginning at 4:30 down there, and then the doors open coming up at 5:30 from the Bullseye Event Center. Again, that is on Saturday. Hey, a couple of things before I get to Brent I want to talk about here. Again, we'll wait on you at Crafters on 146 as the doors are opening right now for your free samples and the great food. But Pacers a 142-130 win over the Bucks. Milwaukee, one of the elite teams, we know that, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. And the Pacers in 5 games won 4. And I had mentioned the other night in Milwaukee, I thought was the most impressive win of the season for the Pacers. And I thought last night closely rivaled my impression on that win. And there are so many reasons to love it. At the top of that list, make no mistake, Tyrese Haliburton is a rising star, just like everybody says. You cannot talk about this guy enough. He has been so good. He has been so clutch. You look at numbers in terms of what he's putting up. You look at numbers, and then he has benchmarks, and you hear the names of Magic Johnson, for example. This hasn't been done since that time. He is setting an incredible, no pun intended here, pace for not just this team, but for the record books right now. And then you look at how he sets up everybody else on this team. Everybody else on this team is made better by the myriad of things that he is able to do, how he produces on the floor each and every night. Everybody benefits from it. I bring up all the time Miles how much better Miles is off the pick and roll or the pick and pop or the screen and slip. Remember back when we started talking about this, remember, I think this is probably during the Bjorkgren era, I'm not sure. But when you're coming off a high ball screen and Malcolm Brogdon had the ball, you probably knew no matter what you did to slip it and to go down, you weren't going to get it. But you can just tell these guys are all aware of the fact that Haliburton has the ball, has control, and is going to make that decision that's going to best benefit them and this team. That, to me, is what stands out. The shot-making ability and all that is outstanding, but it's how he makes his teammates better. And you have seen this across the board. Make no mistake about it. These guys will have a bad night. These guys will have an off night. I mean, these starters in Milwaukee, really 3 of the 5, if you go back to New Year's Day or New Year's evening, if you will, if you go back to that game in Milwaukee earlier this week, you had basically 3 starters that didn't play up to, these standards in which that we are expecting right now. But you had the bench that picked them up. That T.J. McConnell picked them up. Bennedict Mathurin picked them up. Isaiah Jackson. This is, again, all a product. And it starts with Haliburton. And the three-point shot making and all that, there is no doubt that is a big deal. But the way that he makes everybody else better, that's the biggest deal for me. Here's something else. We have seen an uptick in production since what? Since Rick Carlisle went to the lineup and starts Jalen Smith, they go bigger. Now, they end up going small a lot of the time. And again, the fact against Milwaukee, and one of the things that you can see, and it probably, if we can work this out, James, maybe see if Denari's available. I want to bring him on or somebody on about this because maybe I'm wrong. And one of the reasons why I bring this up, in Milwaukee in particular, is you have seen the depth and the youth, I think, along with Haliburton, along with the production. I think you've seen the depth of this team and that youth be beneficial because you get a team that is much more like Milwaukee right now. It feels like it's almost like a postseason rotation. They basically trust their starters and then really not much else after that. But if you go back a month ago, I think it was Milwaukee's first loss here, and I think Giannis went for 50-plus, something like that, as he normally did until last night. But he goes for 50-plus, and he had mentioned how he ran out of gas at the end. And I think you can see he and his teammates running out of gas. I think that's where that depth and that youth for the Pacers is beneficial. And I know people in Milwaukee are going to say, well, Milwaukee's worried about May and June. They're not worried about January. But these guys get out there. You can tell by the reactions, they want to win that game in Milwaukee because they're not liking how they've been dealt with by the Pacers. Whether you're talking about, the whole game ball situation or losing in the semifinal in that in-season tournament in Vegas last month. They want to be competitive, and they want to beat the Pacers. It can be said that they're more worried about long-term and what they're going to do in trying to win a title. Make no mistake about that. I'm sure they are. But they're still out there to prove something against a team that believes that they're on the come and able to beat them and able to take them to task, which, by the way, they have shown. But what you have seen with that starting rotation, and Giannis had mentioned it, I think you have seen it in Lopez. I think you have seen it more than occasionally with Middleton. And I think you have definitely seen it with Lillard. Of those 4 wins the Pacers have this season, man, those guys are running out of gas late in games. And if you watched last night, for example, or you watched on Monday night, you saw this Pacer team kind of take it to another gear. I'm not suggesting they're going to win the Eastern Conference or play for an NBA title, anything like that. But these are the things that you see right now that, because of what we talked about, we always make note of the depth that they have and how good they are coming off the bench and how, and then we kind of lose sight of where it really has that impact. Against Milwaukee, you have seen that definite impact. You have seen it against guys and Giannis and Lillard who are all NBA type of guys, and the expectation is that they're going to play for an Eastern Conference title and an NBA Finals visit, whatever. But you have seen that impact that I'm talking about, whether it is led by Haliburton or it is a product of the depth on this team or the youthfulness of this team. It, again, has had that impact on this Milwaukee team. And you saw it again last night late. They were losing legs. They were losing legs, and they were tired. That's what I saw. And, again, another great Pacer win. They've won 5 consecutive right now. They get Atlanta coming up tomorrow. They get Boston and a home both Saturday night and then on Monday. And a lot of conversation we shall have about that, too. Here's something else that I like, and I don't know if this is going to get lost in the shuffle or not. Because here, I know we end up talking a lot about, guys and how good at guys they are. And what it always comes down to is whether or not you win. I mean, I know that the conversations about being good guys or horseshoe guys or just good for the community guys, it can certainly get lost in the shuffle if you're not a good team. So it makes it much more easy for me to say this right now. But one of the players I really like that may not jump out to you each and every night, certainly he did last night, and really he has since he was put on the bench. I love Obi Toppin as a part of this team right now. I liked it before because you could tell that he has that connection with his team. You could tell he has that connection here locally with the fans. I think that's something. He just looks like he's having a lot of fun, and that plays a role with his teammates and certainly off the floor. But here's a guy that goes from starting and now coming off the bench. And you kind of wonder how these guys, I was talking to Tony Katz a little bit earlier, and he was asking me about guys handling that with an ego. And you're not going to find anybody better handling that situation than Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin, in fact, I think his numbers have been better. Seems like he is playing better since he now is coming off the bench in these situations, since Rick Carlisle made that decision. To me, that is a good thing. Rick Carlisle actually mentioned that last night. He mentioned last night that he is just a fantastic teammate. He is a team-first guy, and you can tell. And if you're going to have a bench that is going to be of that type of impact, as I mentioned, if you're going to have depth that plays such a significant role, you have to have those guys. I don't know if they're going to always be those guys, but right now it seems like that everybody is extremely happy with their role. And we have seen most recently how that is affecting this team in a positive. So we can talk about that if you like it, 239-1070. Inside the Lounge via YouTube Live. Email JMV at 1075thefan.com. The stream, the app, HD radio, and a lot more. And, of course, we got a big one coming up this weekend. On a Saturday night, it is a win, and you're in the postseason. You lose, and you go home. And much like I've talked about the expectations over the past couple of days, you're going to have that. Now, most anybody right now, it looks like the injury report is better for the Texans, but they're still going to be missing some folks. I saw Shane Steichen say a little bit earlier today that as of right now, nobody has been ruled out. We are going to wait on word regarding Ryan Kelly, so we await that. That is going to be a big deal. But again, the table has been set. No matter what you think about this team, or for example, what I thought about this team at the beginning of the year, where we had them slotted, we talked about rebuilds, reboots, any of that. They have this in front of them on Saturday. Expectation should be that you cash it in and you go to the postseason. I don't want to hear about any playing with house money or all of this is gravy or all of this is cake or any of that normal type of conversation, cliche-wise. I want to hear us talk about how we expect them to win. Now, again, they're up and down. They're not that great of a team. They're not that bad of a team. They're somewhere middling. But what I mentioned is they put themselves in a situation to get to the postseason. Again, in a season when nobody expected that, you're at home, prime time on a Saturday night. no matter what the Vegas odds have done, where it's kind of tilted away from the Colts being a favorite, and it is eerily reminiscent to that we talked about a couple of weeks ago before they ended up in Atlanta, and we know what happened there. And we also know this team notoriously has been up and down. I wish I could tell you what to expect exactly on Saturday. I can just tell you what I expect. And I don't expect some type of bullcrap Atlanta performance, some type of road Cincinnati bullcrap performance. I expect these guys to come out and to be able to do what you can do, what you should be able to control, and that is on both sides of the football. Be able to run it. Offensive line. Your lone Pro Bowler is that of left guard Quentin Nelson. That and his group, I mean, even the situation with Ryan Kelly notwithstanding, you should be able to run. You look at Jonathan Taylor. He is 5-0 in the past against the Houston Texans. Now, granted, he was not participating in that win going back to September. 5-0 in the past. You sign him to an extension. I was on board with it. I mean, it took a while, took probably more time than what we expected, what we thought, probably ended a little bit differently than we thought. But that's the reason why you do that, is to be able to benefit from that level of play in a situation just like that on Saturday night. So to me, that should be a controllable. Like, I don't know if the quarterback is going to make all the right calls, is going to make all the right throws, if they're going to be able to put up big numbers. And obviously we're skeptical about what takes place on the back end of that defense. But your controllables to me are being able to get things done up front, both sides of the football. Run it, and then be able to cause havoc with a rookie quarterback that has been so good this season, and a rookie quarterback that is not dealing with what under normal circumstances would be his full arsenal. That to me is going to be a big deal on Saturday. You're looking for the controllables. You're asking me for that. It is both sides up front of the football. If either one of those malfunction, you're going to have an issue, and we are all going to be ripping this thing apart coming up on Monday. If those are what we expect them to be, then you should be happy. Got that coming up. Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 is going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Braden Smith, who is a friend here of the Crafters folks, Brian of the gang here. Braden Smith of the Boilermakers, the sophomore guard, the former Mr. Basketball from Westfield, is going to join us, I think, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour at some point as well. But joining us now, he's our betting analyst. He is fresh off of what was a fantastic getaway vacation for the holiday season. And even during his getaway, pulled off a nice, resourceful mark with your wagers going against the spread last week. Brent Holverson, everybody.
John, Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Happy New Year to you.
It's
Great
good to be
have you
back.
back.
Cheers.
Romy did a great job
He
for
did.
you last week.
I had a pleasure listening to the show. You guys did a great job. And how about those picks? Huh? You and I were right on all the way to the end.
Right,
and then
I
Romy,
need to be right on because I've been right off for about a month.
You did great. I was really, really impressed to see that. And then Romy brought the closer out there, bringing that hook on in that Raiders game. It was a win-win. The Colts get the win.
Yep.
The Raiders got the cover. It ended up being a good week. You were 11-5.
11-5, baby. Now, here's the big question. Okay, you got mine. I want yours. But we had somebody that's talking a bunch of junk. On Thursday. He was sitting back with his hands in his pocket going, hey, this is me and this is how I do it. Going all opposite of me and each and every one. His name is Chris Hagan of Fox 59. How did Chris Hagan of Fox 59 do going against me?
Mr. Hagan went 8-8.
Ooh.
So he lost money talking juice there, right? So you lose money at 500. Yeah.
500. I was 11-5.
You and Chelsea, both. Chelsea was 11-5.
Chelsea, I'm going to tell you what. Chelsea at Taylor's, she's legit.
Oh, yeah, she was great.
What a great hang.
Her knowledge that she had, she was speaking well. I mean, she nailed it. And I know there was a big bet amongst the Taylors in Lapel as well, because he went, I think he was 2-13 or something, and Chelsea pulled off 11-5. I ended up going 12-4, thanks to Romy on making that.
Shout out to 12-4 right there.
So, yeah, we had a good week, man. It's, and this week's going to be really, really interesting because, as you know, we've got a lot of games that don't mean a thing, a lot of people sitting. But there's also a lot of good money to be made this week when you're talking player incentives, John.
Get the world of backup quarterbacks here. Maybe names of the past that have been backups and a spot starter here. They're like Jeff Driscoll, for example, in Cleveland as they rest Joe Flacco. If anybody were to tell you, it's one thing to say, hey, you know what? The Colts are going to be in that final weekend of the season playing for a spot in the postseason and maybe even winning the division. So which one would be at the top of the list first of what? That or the Browns are going to rest Joe Flacco so he is prepared for the postseason under center for Cleveland. That is outrageous.
It is. That absolutely is.
Yeah, even more so than the Colts, I think, right here.
Right, I know.
So, but there are any number of backup quarterbacks that we're talking about.
There's a lot of them out there. I mean, you look at the Ravens. I mean, they're going to have, and again, you're going to look at some of these, and we'll talk a little bit about this maybe the 4 o'clock hour, but these incentive bets that I just mentioned, right? There's guys out there like Odell Beckham Jr. He has a chance to make an additional $1.5 million with 5 receptions, 175 yards, and 2 TDs. He's going to be. They're going to get out there playing. These guys go after that for these guys for the money. So you talk to those backup quarterbacks. There's some of them out there, and again, we've seen this has been a year of backup quarterbacks. Not only second string, third string. You look at Mason Rudolph, third string, and he's actually played pretty well. They've got a shot to get in the playoffs too. So it's going to come down to these quarterbacks, and like you say, some of these games that we're going to be talking about where they just don't have to play for anything. They're resting their guys. We'll kind of walk through that a little bit and see who's going to be standing out as anybody to put some money on.
You know, what this also has done, too, I think it has shown you, and you wonder what the market is going to be. And, again, this is for off-season conversation. Jim McCann, Southern California, is in the house.
Hi, Jim.
This is going to be for off-season conversation, but I did bring this up a little bit over the course of the week. What is going to be the market value of Gardner Minshew? And it's not like all of this relies upon how he plays coming up on Saturday, but certainly that the optical of that is going to be something that people will look at going into the offseason or the postseason, if you will, win or lose. But is his market value now higher because of the value of the backup quarterback and the need with that value of the backup quarterback this year? And has he proven at all that there is a spot, that he deserves a spot as a starter? Because to me, the Colts would want him back. The Colts would need him back. But at the same time, if there is a spot out there where he believes that he can play for a starting role, then that may be a deal breaker right here. If I'm the Colts, there's no way in the world I would not bring him back. But he is going to be the one that is going to be able to dictate those terms more than anybody else. I just think that with what we have seen evolve around the NFL, especially at the end of the year and how it looks, and then you combine that with Anthony Richardson in the Colts situation and how well he has been in his stead, there's no way that you don't bring him back. But again, he is going to be the one that's going to dictate those terms.
Sure. And again, that's why these guys are playing so hard, and they're playing for that starting spot. They're playing to secure that spot. And like you just said, John, I mean, this year more than any that I can remember, the importance of having a good backup has really been a key for some of these teams even still being in it. And it's, just looking back at it, it's pretty wild. Because you're going to look at, this week's going to be pretty weird. You're watching the Rams. Carson Wentz going to play for the Rams. Tyler Huntley for Baltimore Ravens, So it's just you're going to get a chance to see some more of that. And again, I think more than ever, teams are going to look at that as we need to really step it up for next year, make sure we've got that good backup. So, Gardner's out there playing for the future. For sure.
Brent Holverson, our betting analyst. Before I hit a break here, give me the latest numbers that we have on the Colts and the Texans on Saturday night, too, because there has been movement over the course of the week, and it has been, as I mentioned earlier, similar to that type of movement we saw a couple of weeks ago when they went down to Atlanta, and then we ultimately saw how that turned out.
And it's pretty scary. And we talked about it, right? We didn't know what was going on, but we knew there was something, and it was something, right? So, this Colts opened up at a 1-point favorite. And now that it's switched completely, so Houston is now a 1.5-point favorite here in Indy.
And we asked that question numerous times leading up to, and it seemed like Vegas was on to something right there.
They're always on to something, John. I mean, they're the ones setting the lines, making the lines. They know where the smart money's coming in at. But again, there's nothing more than, I think we've seen how Stroud played. He's a stud. We all know that. And he's got his weapons back, everybody but Tank Dell. So he's got a full arsenal out there. I mean, it's going to be a good game. I think this will be a really, really good game. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see. It's the sole Saturday night game, so that's going to be exciting to watch.
We are at Kraft. Did Bob Kravitz just walk in here? There's Bob Kravitz. Is it Kraft? We got to send some folks some samples here, right? We call them samples because I'm not allowed to say we're going to send you some free stuff over there. So Bob Kravitz is here, bobkravitz.com. We got the free samples flowing, do we?
We've got some samples flowing. Got a great place here, and it's now officially open, starting to fill up here in the bar. So come out and join us, and let's try some of these samples.
Crafters 146th Street is the location in Carmel. We want to see you all here, and a shout out to Brian for having us. Braden Smith, the former Mr. Basketball, the Purdue sophomore guard, is going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour. Our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila Shots coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Mike Chappell in the 5 o'clock hour. Did I miss anybody, James, on the list? I know I did a shout out there quickly to Chris Denari. I wouldn't mind to work him in. Did I miss Zak Keefer? Is Zak on the show today from The Athletic too?
Yep, Zak's at 3:30.
3:30. Zak Keefer's got his latest. It's a real combination platter of a story he has with Colts football and a guy that spent time in prison. And if you like the HBO show The Wire, you'll probably like to hear what he has to talk about. Plus, I saw him in the press box last week, and we'll talk about this matchup coming up on Saturday night. And then how you can listen to both the Pacers and the Celtics, and obviously the Colts and the Texans coming up on Saturday right here and under the umbrella of the Urban One stations we have, starting with us, the Fan, and Hank FM. Going to be large and in charge on Saturday with all your local sports on what is going to be a tremendous day. All right, quick break, and we shall return. We are looking for you because the doors are officially open here after 3 at Crafters, 146th Street in Carmel. The free samples are flowing. They have great food. Bob Kravitz is here as well. Zak Keefer of The Athletic is join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. Inside the lounge, the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. Jump on there. You can watch, you can listen, you can participate. The stream, the app, HD Radio at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Back with you next.
In order for small businesses to thrive, they need to be smart.
Glad that you're with us. Inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, everybody. Oh, yeah, am I getting in a picture here? Hey, don't get my fever blister in there, okay? Hey, Brent, by the way, I got to get to Zak Keefer in a second, but you were gone last week, so I got sick, right? I got sick. It was a severe cold, I guess, whatever. But all of a sudden, here comes, and I like to make fun of it. You know, it's an STD, it's a herpes, whatever. It's a fever blister. So I got an STD last week on my face, and somebody had told me, hey, you know what? You can knock it out quickly if you pour rubbing alcohol on it. So I took the bottle, and I did this to it and, like, just kept it on there for a couple of minutes. And it just burned the absolute hell out of my lips.
Ouch.
Yeah, so I got burned lips here and burned lips there from that.
You know what I try, John? Take a little Larceny and pour it down down that thing into your mouth. That way it could just kill it, drink it, and be good.
Hopefully that works because I will do it. I'm sure. I will do it. And everybody says, man, you know, I always thought when you said that you were really dumb that was just a role play on the radio. And I go, no, I'm really that dumb.
It's real.
I am really that dumb, and it's unfortunate right there. But we are on the road to recovery. Meantime, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He writes for The Athletic. He's got a great feature article up with his latest, and can also talk about this win and you're in scenario for the Colts and the Texans on Saturday night. Zak Keefer joins us right now. Former colleague of yours, Bob Kravitz, by the way, Zach, is in the house here at Crafters today.
What's up, guys? What an intro there. STDs on the face? I mean, this is why I love your show. I never know where we're going to start.
Yeah, that's what – and sometimes that's to the detriment. Sometimes guests go, you know, I don't know about your STD start with me right here, but with somebody like you,
I'm like, I can't not listen now that we got going.
We know that works. Hey, I saw you in the press box last week in that win over the Raiders. This has been an up and down season. It's been a roller coaster, and there's no doubt they've taken full advantage of the schedule that they have and had played through to this point. I mentioned this. I said to cash this in on Saturday night, you have to control what you can control. And I think there's not a lot they can. But I think they should be able to value the play of this offensive line and the O-line respond. I think that's something that they can control. I think Jonathan Taylor, the reason why you believe in him to extend him in the fashion in which you did would be for situations like this on Saturday night. And I would also suggest defensively you can do the same thing up front. Those are the controllables I believe in the Colts on Saturday night. What say you?
Yeah, I think you're dead on. Like, I'm not going to knock this team because of what they've done this year. Like, they have really made the most of what they've had, right? Easy schedule if you want to argue, but they have really upticked their performance in just situational football. Like, that's the biggest difference. Like, I scoured the locker room Sunday after the game, and I had not been in there for a year, so it was fun to catch up with some guys. And Mo Alley Cox was like, man, a year ago, like, we were always terrible in those situations. So come Saturday night, that's going to be a huge advantage, I think, for the Colts. Now, the Texans are well coached too, but Steichen really shines in those moments for me. And you just nailed it, man. Like, I asked EJ Speed, like, when did you know this season wasn't going to just be like this rebuild, crapola 4-12 year, 4-13, whatever? And he's like, if I'm being honest, man, it was when we re-signed JT. So that was week 4 when they realized Richardson was the real deal and Steichen was the real deal. This is why you pay him. I don't think he's ever lost to the Texans. Now, there was a tie last year. We don't need to get into that. But, like, this is the dude. And now they have an advantage at quarterback, obviously, with C.J. Stroud over Minshew. You have a huge advantage with Taylor. He needs to go off. He's done this before in primetime games in Indianapolis, at home. The Patriots game a couple years ago comes to mind. But this is when he's got to shine. This is when your A-plus players have to shine. And I think it's going to be fun to see what Steichen does to try to get 28 rolling.
Yeah, me too. I mentioned this number. He's 5-0 in the past against the Texans. However, he didn't play in that first meeting and that win by the Colts. And what's funny about that, Zach, is there's not a lot that you can really transfer from that first meeting in terms of the Colts winning and put it to good use conversationally with you and I going into this Saturday night win and you're in affair.
Yeah, I don't think the Texans are that team anymore. Like, I think they've gotten so much better. Remember, they were 0-2 and they were bad. And then they go to Jacksonville the next week and rout the Jaguars. And really, they have gotten better a lot since. And so I've been around the Texans a little bit this year. I went down and did a big C.J. Stroud profile, and I covered their game against the Bengals in mid-November. And that dude just, like, outplayed Joe Burrow on Joe Burrow's home field when Burrow was healthy. So he's got top-end talent. I mean, there's a reason he was like an outside MVP candidate until he got hurt. He's really, really good, and he's going to test this young secondary. But like you saw Sunday against the Raiders, like, you know, Brent and those young guys have gotten better. They can make some plays. They had the toughest cover in the league maybe in Devontae Adams last week. Did pretty good against him. That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. And I don't know. How confident are you guys in the defense come Sunday? Because I think, or Saturday, that's the biggest concern for me because I just don't know if I can trust the Colts defense.
Well, and if they don't show up front, if they don't put people, we've talked about Gus Bradley and where we are with the Colts defensive coordinator, Zach, right now. And most people say, you know what, he does the same thing. He doesn't bring pressure. And I can understand at times why he doesn't because of what you have on the back end. But I think you have to rely upon how much stock you have put in to the front of this defense. And it's much like the offensive line to me, Zach. The offensive line is a must perform. This defensive line is a must perform. If either does not, likely the Colts lose.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not sexy to talk about, but you're right. That's where the game is won. It's going to be up front, D-line, O-line. And I had an interesting conversation with Ryan Kelly on Sunday, and I'm just like, man, like this unit was terrible a year ago. Like it's not great right now. They're not like world beaters like they were in 2018 and 2019, but I think they're a little bit better. And he said, look, man, when Tony got here, Tony Sparano Jr., the new O-line coach, he said, we were broken as a unit and we wanted to reclaim our names. Like that's pretty telling that a Pro Bowl type player like Ryan Kelly came off that season and said we were broken because they were. Like they nearly got Sam Ehlinger and Nick Foles and Matt Ryan killed last year, among other issues this team had. So I think you're right. That's where it starts. And Ryan Kelly said that's where you win games. And when you have a backup quarterback in Minshew who's not super mobile, like you're going to have to protect. They're going to have to win up front. That's going to open things up for the play action game where Steichen's really good. And then obviously 28 as well. So you're right. And then on the other end, you know, this team is what? Have they set the record for sacks in Indianapolis? If they haven't, they're really close. That's a Mike Chappell stat. But, like, They need to win without blitzing. Like, those guys need to win one-on-ones. They need to win without bringing the pressure, like you said, because the coverage in the back end is just not going to be able to hold up for 5 or 6 seconds.
You think has that been more the issue? Because, again, I brought up the whole Gus Bradley conversation that has been ongoing for the past month and a half. Has that been more the issue, what he's had to work with over how he calls a game defensively for you, or is it opposite?
I think it's messy, and you got to go back to, like, July and August. Like, Isaiah Rodgers gets popped for betting on his own team, and he's their top returning outside corner. So they got Kenny Moore and a bunch of kids. They've got the 27th highest-paid secondary in the league, a bunch of rookies and like second-year players, right? I mean, like I don't cover the team every day anymore. I couldn't tell you their depth chart at secondary. Like I don't think a lot of fans could. They've had some good moments and they've had some rough ones. And then Tony Brown gets suspended, and so they're leaking in that back end. And so that's going to be a reality. Like whoever's calling the defense, that's going to be really tough. The nice thing is they have not seen a lot of elite quarterbacks. A lot of elite quarterbacks are hurt across the league. You've gotten what you paid for, right? You've gotten what you drafted, and you've gotten what you get when you go into a season with a bunch of first and second year guys. And I think the payoff could come down the line. We've seen spots where these guys have been really good, but it's going to make you queasy going into every game. Luckily, they've been able to put a lot of pressure up front, but it's just how, I mean, you can't live well defensively if you don't have elite corners in the back end. Those guys are really hard to find. They're really hard to keep healthy, and they're really hard to keep on the roster because they demand a lot of money. Because what they do is, I think, it's like among the most difficult jobs in football, besides quarterback, is to just cover on an island like what Stephon Gilmore has done for a long time.
Yeah, I do. I'm kind of caught in the middle, though, Zach. I kind of wonder how this is going to go for Gus. And I know there's a history there with he and Shane Steichen, too, a bit of one. But I kind of wonder how this is going to end up going because there are a lot of people, and I have been critical. I was critical in the Rams game. I was critical in the Browns game, where I thought maybe with added pressure, a different form, a different way that you coach them up, maybe you could have won both of those games and put pressure on quarterbacks, Stafford being hobbled and Walker just being out there in general, and that could have been a difference in a game between a win and a loss as it stands. But for the most part, you do kind of look at this team, and it seems like it is just more what you have to deal with, especially on the backside of this, than it is anything else for Gus. But is this game, you think, coming up Saturday night, is this dependent if they lose? Is Gus Bradley next season, is that in jeopardy of him coming back as the defensive coordinator, in your opinion?
I think that'll be a fascinating conversation. A little bit of background on this. When they were going through their 35-day coaching search last year, which literally took years off my life, they interviewed 12 candidates. They tried to interview 13. The consensus from a couple of those candidates was the Colts made it clear they wanted to keep Gus Bradley. So the interesting thing is they interviewed a couple of defensive guys, right? So if you're bringing in a defensive head coach, don't you let him pick his own DC? Like, don't you let him pick a DC that's very much aligned with his style and scheme? And obviously Steichen was a great pick so far. Everything tells us that. They have a history from San Diego, LA Chargers. I get that, and that matters. And yeah, I mean, they're thin in the back end, and Shaq Leonard came back and wasn't the same player. And there's context to this. Grover was popped for PEDs in the 6 games, like that matters. But I think it's a conversation that's going to be had, and especially if C.J. Stroud carves them up, like Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard need to sit down and have that conversation with all the context. With these are the players Chris Ballard put on the roster. Any DC was going to have to use them. And figure out, like, is this the best guy to run this defense moving forward? I think you stick with a 4-3 because of the personnel and just the way the league is going. But I think it's absolutely a question you ask after the season if this doesn't go well, because they have cost them in so many spots this season.
Zak Keefer of the Athletics with us on the Eddie Moore Automotive Group hotline. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots. We are at Crafters on 146th Street in Carmel today. Your latest feature in The Athletic has kind of a combination here for those that love the Colts and have interest in the Colts, and those that loved, among the great shows all time created by HBO. We know that of The Sopranos. I loved Entourage. I loved Eastbound and Down. I even liked Hung, and not a lot of people did. But The Wire is always at the top of the list, and you have a bit of a combination in your latest feature regarding both, don't you?
Yeah, pretty amazing day Sunday. I spent it with Antonio Barnes. Now, this guy grew up in Baltimore rooting for the Colts when they were there, and they were his favorite team. And even after they moved to Indy, he stayed loyal. But his story is wild. He grew up on the streets of Baltimore in a gang, and he went to prison, and he was sentenced. Well, it was a life sentence in 1987. And so he started to reach out to me in like 2017, 2018 with emails wanting news on the Colts. And it took me a little while to figure out where these emails were coming from. He was in prison, and he was paroled a year ago. And he made it his mission to get to Indianapolis for a game. And that happened on Sunday. And it just made his life. I mean, he was just over the moon. They got a win for him. He wants to come back next year. So it's just a surreal story for him. And we get to go to games all the time, right? We kind of lose that charm and that kid feeling you get when you walk into a stadium. I walked into the stadium on Lucas Oil on Sunday morning with him, and it was the first time he'd been to a game in 40 years, and it just all came back to him, and he couldn't believe how much was different. Very, very cool to see him experience that. I know, I think Irsay read the story, and I know Chris Ballard reached out to him just to say, like, this was so cool. So cool for him to have that experience, and they got a 3-point win for him as well.
He may be the only person that is originally from Baltimore that kind of held true and strong and stayed with the Colts going back to that 84 move.
I'm telling you, man, like, I asked him 15 times, like, are you sure? And his entire family, like, they hate the Colts. They're all about the Ravens. And I asked him, and he said, look, man, the Colts are all I know. Like, he would just name players that I'd never heard of. So he goes back a ways, and his allegiance just didn't waver.
No, that's awesome. That is great. Now, were you a fan of The Wire?
Yes, huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is you probably enjoyed this about as much as any story you've written in a while, I would assume.
I'll say this, having to rewatch some of the episodes where Antonio, he says, this was like something I experienced in my life, and this was the detective I knew. Having to rewatch those episodes for me, that was not a hard part of the assignment. Like, that was not difficult. I had plenty of enjoyment doing that.
That's awesome. That's his latest. Zak Keefer of The Athletic regarding that combination of the Wire and the Colts. That certainly, if you're a fan of the Wire or the Colts, you'll absolutely want to read. Again, from The Athletic, Zak Keefer is with us. You in the press box on Saturday night?
I will not be there. I'll be watching from my couch. You guys enjoy it.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate that very much. There'll be a great read, I'm sure, and we'll send everybody to that. And enjoy the weekend, and we'll do it again soon, Zach. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Zak Keefer of The Athletic with us via the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You a big fan of The Wire back then?
Oh, yeah,
HBO?
absolutely. Yeah.
Cam, The Wire. It was one I didn't get deeply involved in it. I got more into The Sopranos. And as I mentioned, Eastbound and Down was one of my all-time favorites. Entourage was another one right there, too, that I watched. But, man, I think I'm missing out, and I need to go back, double back, and watch some of those episodes I missed.
Yeah, I do, too. I mean, and again, I don't watch a lot of TV, do a lot of, a lot of ESPN's usually what's on when I have a chance. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I'd love to go back and a lot of those shows you just mentioned,
Yes.
just go back and see. There's some good shows.
Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila Shots. You heard him. His back. Brent Holverson, our betting analyst, is here. Top of the hour, we go through our final weekend of the regular season picks. A lot of backup quarterbacks playing roles. We'll get to that coming up at the top of the hour. Braden Smith of Purdue is going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Chris Denari, Mike Chappell, and a lot more live from Crafters 146. In Carmel is our location on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well,
To say that, you're going to have to speak up because I can't hear you.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back, Crafters. Our location, 146 in Carmel. Thank you for joining us on the Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots. Thursday, final reg of the season Thursday for our picks, top of the hour. Betting analyst Brent Holverson, me, JMV. The AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live is up and running right now. Shout out to everybody in there. Some were asking about your thoughts on IU last night. It was as dreadful a game to watch as you can imagine, because two things stand out. Two things. And one was, I will guarantee you, most level-headed IU fans, and I don't know how many are out there, but most level-headed IU fans felt that was coming, right? You felt that was coming last night. What's up, Tommy? Yes. And then, unfortunately, over the course of watching it, you kind of waited for some sort of run in the second half anywhere, anyhow, and it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. Now, I can easily sit here and tell you that, what you got to do is, make sure you win at home and, maybe sprinkle in a couple of wins on the road. I'm not quite sure at all if this team is capable of doing much of either, especially after last night. And I'm talking about the team on the floor, the coaching staff, all encompassing right there. That was just a dreadful performance. It was. And I don't know, the turnovers, just this stuff that, I know Nebraska is better, but I can't sit here and tell you that you go out there and you turn it over at that high volume rate and you look like that for basically all the game, and that's because Nebraska is better. But that's what struck me more than anything else is I think a lot of you probably were sitting at home going, that's exactly what you're going to get. And unfortunately for you, that's exactly what you got. We'll bring that back up a little bit later on. Brent, are you ready for our Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots?
I couldn't be more ready, John.
Betting analyst Brent Holverson and us on the other side. We got plenty of room for you. We are open at Crafters in Carmel, 146th Street. We've got the free samples flowing, and we got a lot more for you. Do not go anywhere. Our Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots next.
Query and Company.
Stephen Holder from ESPN. What percent of healthy is Jonathan Taylor?
Clearly not.
Everybody down on the ground.
Well, which is it, young feller? You want ice that freeze or get down on the ground? If I freeze, I can't rightly drop. And if I drop, I'm going to be in motion. You see?
Shut up!
Okay, then.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Everybody, we are in Carmel today. Look at that. We're coming back with Stevie Wonder right here. This is very superstitious of you. Thank you, James. Back in the studio, hour 2 of the show. Cam's the on-site engineer. Jacob is here. Tomorrow, Bottle Works for you at the garage. That is a Bud Light Blue Friday. We've got Texans Colts tickets to give away tomorrow night, the JMV Takeover, which you may hear that comes your way at about 7 o'clock. We'll start that on B105.7. Normally on Saturday, but so much going on, we'll put that on a Friday night on B105.7 coming up tomorrow. Brent Holverson, betting analyst, rejoins us right now. By the way, too, here at Crafters. Crafters is a home base for the Smith family, for Braden Smith of the Boilermakers. He joins us. Of course, Purdue's got a matchup tomorrow night with Illinois. That's a top 10 matchup in West Lafayette. Braden joins us. We'll talk about that coming up at the bottom of the hour. But Brent Holverson rejoins, our betting analyst. Anything stand out? By the way, John's joining us too here from Crafters. You're the mouthpiece of Crafters, from what I have heard. Yep. That's what Brian has said. So let's you're the face.
I am
the mouthpiece of Crafters here. Where do we start?
Wherever you want. With Crafters, man, we got a big weekend going on with the Colts, the Hoosiers. Yep. Everybody's in town. We really would like more people to come out for the Pacers as well. Yes. Especially since we're having such a good year. Tyrese, that emerging star that he is, especially with Ben as well. But yeah, big weekend. Come in, get our wings. Best in town. I don't care what anybody says. Nowhere compares.
Best wing. Okay, what's the go-to? I've heard there's going to be some kind of wing situation happening a little bit later on.
Yeah, so Braden Smith, like you said, home base for him and his fam. His buddies, their fantasy punishment this year for the loser. They have to come in here, eat 10 wings, and Brian got to make the sauce. So obviously he went as brutal as he could.
Brian, we going elite level heat sauce here.
So
man.
Our wings are the best in town. Like I said, I don't care what anybody says. They're big, they're meaty. We got a lot.
If I were going to do that, it would have to definitely be at the very end of the show. And I don't know if I could make it home in time.
Yeah, that's definitely one for not being a home game.
It's going to take about 45, 50 minutes for me to get home. I don't know if that's enough time because my digestive tract is like a water slide. It just goes just right out.
Well, I can tell you, when I walked in, Brian was making that sauce, and he had just a little dabble-do on the tongue, and he had a little sweat brewing. But then we got Romy over there. Romy's got a pallet of steel over there. He's like, make it hotter.
Man, those Romanek brothers, dude, come on now.
They're two spicy fellas, I'll tell you that.
Two spicy dudes. No, I would probably have. I know there are various hospital sites around. I may need something like that.
Well,
get the gurney ready.
Get the gurney ready. Yeah, it's definitely probably not a home game. That's a home game situation.
Well, I mean, if it turned into a road game against all odds here, I would go across the parking lot to Fresh Market and have them deal with it.
Clean up in aisle 3. Clean up in aisle 3.
I wouldn't do it here. I'll have them deal with it at Fresh Market. All right. Any games stick out for us as we get ready to go here?
You know, I think we've got, 7 games that actually have meaning to them, right?
Meaningful games.
We'll kind of talk through. We got a lot of backup quarterbacks, third-string quarterbacks, guys that haven't really played much at all, going to be playing for all those teams that are already locked in. You've got a little bit of pride on the line for a couple of these teams that are out of it, but they're still going to go after it, like that Bears-Packers game. That's a huge win for them. You know, I mean, last year I was at that Packer-Lions game. Packer needed to win just like they do this year. Lions came out and played hard as they could. That was their Super Bowl, even though they weren't in the playoffs, kept the Packers out. So you got a couple of those scenarios too. So we're gonna walk through it and talk through it. We've also got a lot of really good player incentive prop bets that we should talk about too.
Oh, incentive
big
prop
money
bets.
to talk about incentives for these players.
That's our betting analyst, Brent Holverson, Heaven Hill Distillery, Crafters 146, the best wings in town and great food. John can tell you about that. John, you ready to go too?
Yes, sir.
All right, cue the band back at the studio, would you, James? Our final regular season weekend of Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila shots. I'll start right here. How about this? Steelers and the Ravens. The Ravens are going to be resting some dudes. I don't blame them, right? In particular, Lamar Jackson is going to be doing some resting. The way I look at this number right now, what is it? I can't even read it.
3.5.
3.5.
Steelers are 3.5.
It looked like 2.5. So I think this is going to be a game to where Mason Rudolph's going to be the starter for the Steelers. I think you lay that 3.5 and you take the Steelers because it's going to be rest and relaxation in Baltimore on Saturday afternoon. What say you, Brent?
Yeah, this is that one game, like I said, when I'm talking about bet, we're going to go through all these games, right? But there's some of these I wouldn't even touch. This is one that's got some meaning because Pittsburgh does need to win.
Right.
So you think they're going to go out there after it. But you've also, again, we're going to talk a little bit player incentive bets. Odell Beckham Jr., he gets $1.5 million if he gets 5 more receptions, 100 and some yards, and 2 TDs. I think they're going to come out and play. You got Tyler Huntley, who's a great second-string quarterback. That Baltimore defense is still going to be on the field, and they've been the best at it all year.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Baltimore plus 3.5. This is one of those only one of those team game or one of those games. I'm going to take a team that has playing for nothing since they've already locked up that number 1 seed. But Baltimore, man, they looked really, really good. Their defense is legit. And I just don't know about Mason Rudolph. He's looked good the last couple of weeks. I just don't think they make it. I'll take Baltimore plus 3.5.
What do you got there, John?
So I'm taking the Steelers in this one. I agree with everything he just said. Ravens are going to come out. I think more defensive players are going to get revealed that they're sitting out as the week goes on. But I think the Steelers have more to play for. They want to make the playoffs. They got to win. They got a couple other things that need to happen, but they are going to start it off right and win this game this week.
All right, Buccaneers and Panthers also coming up on this final regular season weekend. 4.5-point favorites of the Buccaneers. I'm going to lay the 4.5 and take the Buccaneers on the road. What do you got, Brent?
Yeah, I really liked Tampa last week. I think everybody took Tampa last week, and they didn't do it, right? I think they're going to get it done now. And there's a lot of money on the line for Baker Mayfield. He gets $1 million just if they win the game, make the playoffs. I'm going to go ahead and take Tampa, and I'm going to go ahead and call this my Larceny lock of the week is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Lock it up, John. What you got?
I got Tampa as well. I don't really. Carolina's been miserable to watch all year, so I'm taking Tampa.
Yep.
Jeff Driscoll getting the start. And who would have thought this at the beginning of the season if I were to tell you that in Cleveland, Jeff Driscoll is going to start because they're going to rest Joe Flacco because of their position solidified in the AFC playoff picture. You'd have said, have you been having what Bob Kravitz is having? Probably. You would have said that at the beginning of the season. With that, that is the situation right now. They're on the road in Cincinnati. Bengals 7-point favorites. Because of the situation in Jeff Driscoll, I'm going to lay the 7 and give me the Bengals at home. Brent.
Well, John, we were on a lot of the same games. All of them won last week, and I'm going to go against you on this one here. I think, again, that Cleveland defense, they're still going to be out there playing. They got a solid defense. Now, I know that Cincinnati's been playing pretty decent, but that 7 number at home, this is a big rivalry. I think it's within 3 or 4, so I'm going to take Cleveland plus the points in that one.
John, talk to me.
I'm going to take the Bengals in this one. I think T. Higgins, Jamar Chase have big days as the Browns kind of take it a little light this weekend.
My goodness, the Jets and the Patriots, only degenerates are going to be working this game, so I guess that's where we fall in that category. 2-point favorites in Foxborough on the Patriots. Lay the 2 and give me New England. And Bill Belichick's final game as head coach of the Patriots. Huh? I don't know. Just said that.
This is, well,
that may be the case. I just said
the case. This is that UGLY. You ain't got no alibi game here. Again, degenerates only. I'm going to take New England Patriots, lay the 2, home team.
His name's John.
All right, I'm going against both of you. I'm taking New York. I'm having them send off Belichick in a proper way with a loss.
Larceny, Bourbon Locks, Lunazul, Tequila Shots. Crafters' final weekend of the regular season with a lot of meaning and then some games with not a great deal of meaning going down this weekend. 146th Street is our location. We'd love to have you out here for some free samples and great food, mind you. Falcons and the Saints. With the Saints, 3.5-point favorites at home this weekend. Lay the 3.5. Give me New Orleans, Brent.
Yeah, I think, again, this has meaning for both teams, but more so for the Saints. I think the Saints at home. I'll lay the 3.5 with you, John.
John, what are you talking about here?
I'm going against you both again. I'm taking the Falcons to be a playoff buster.
Man, they've been a buster before, too. Just last, it was weird, right? So the way they handled the Colts, and then they go to Chicago and couldn't do anything last week. But I'll still go ahead and ride with the Saints this weekend. Here's one for you, because this could have meaning on Sunday, considering what happens on Saturday night here at Lucas Oil Stadium with the Jaguars in full reverse going down the stretch here.
Got an update for you, John, on this. I just checked. The line is down to 5 or 3.5. It was at 5 on earlier today, right. So it's dropped to 1.5. Might tell you something about who's going to be quarterback.
Man, I'm telling you, down from 5 to 3.5, the Jaguars are favorites. That's on the road in Nashville. And, man, let me tell you this. Mike Vrabel in this type of situation, I wouldn't want to be messing with it. I would not. And then Jacksonville has to. I'm telling you, I think the Titans are going to win this. So I'm going to take that 3.5 and give me the Titans at home, and we're going to have some full-scale FUBAR coming up between the Texans and the Colts in our picks a little bit later on. Go ahead, Brent.
Well, I tell you, we looked at this game, kind of like that Colts game when that line moved so much. I mean, I was going to take Jacksonville here. Seeing that line move, that tells you something. Again, there's more than what we know that's out there. I'm going to go ahead and take Tennessee with you. And again, there's some big money on the line for DeAndre Hopkins. He has a chance to make, I think it's $750,000 with 39 yards, 7 catches, and 2 TDs. And I think they're going to go after it and get it to him. I think you're right. Vrabel's going to play him hard. Tennessee plus the points.
Guys, the best part about this is for the Colts or the Texans to win, and hopefully, obviously, for you fans out here, it's going to be the Colts. But to sit back and then to watch how that goes down on Sunday to the winner of that game on Saturday night is such an incredible luxury right there. I mean, really, you can do that throughout the NFL, but a luxury within the AFC South. I would tend to agree with you, John. What do you got?
So I was going to take, he said that about the drop, I was going to take Titans to cover, Jags to win, but that probably means Trevor Lawrence is going to be out. So I'm taking Titans outright, especially with the spread. I like them to and help the Colts out.
See, here's the other thing, though. It's weird because we thought that before that Atlanta game, the reason why that number went the direction in which it was because maybe somebody was injured. We didn't know. But ultimately, it was just Vegas knew, I guess, that Atlanta was going to come out and play in the fashion in which they did.
Isn't that wild?
So, and we've watched the Colts number move. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And we kind of downplayed that 2 weeks ago. I hesitate to downplay that. So is this going to be a quarterback situation, or is it more just not trusting Jacksonville on the road against the Vrabel situation?
You know what also happens, John, is Vegas, they toy with us too, right? They can move this number just to move it to make you think stuff, and nothing's really going on.
Sure.
Just to kind of push some money over there, right? So, but again, more than not, you see these numbers move that big of more than a half point, point and a half. There's something going on there, and that's usually it's better to follow them to go against them.
Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul, Tequila Shots, Crafters, and Carmel on this final weekend of the regular season. Seahawks, 2.5-point favorites on the road against Arizona. I think this was an easy one for me. I'm going to lay that 2.5 and give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, this is a light line here, I mean, it really seems light to me. They have a chance, they need the Packers to lose, of course, but I'm going to take Seattle with you. I'll lay that little under a field goal, lay the 2.5. Again, big day for if Geno Smith, if they make the playoffs, he gets $2 million. So they need some help for that to happen, but he's going to go out there and give it all. $2 million is not a short little cake to take.
John, what are you thinking about in that game?
I'm with them. Seahawks, $2 million for Geno. They got to make the playoffs.
Oh, the Vikings and the Lions. And, man, there is so much going back to that Lions-Dallas game last week we could get into, yet I don't know if we have enough time or the inclination to do it. 2.5-point favorites of the Lions? Or is that 3.5?
3.5. Right, Detroit is 3.5
favorites at Ford Field. I'm going to lay that 3.5 and give me the Lions.
Dan Campbell is notorious for just going out, and he'll play his guys. Golf's going to start. How long will they go? Who knows? But, man, I'm sorry, Tommy Sutton, but that game, your Vikings the other night against my Pack, that was ugly. They waited too long to pull that quarterback. They were so far out of it. So they are starting. Nick Mullins will be the Vikings quarterback. I think you're going to see a lot of golf. And I think Detroit's actually going to come out and play pretty hard. They're going to win this game. They're going to cover that 3.5.
What do you got there, John?
I agree. Dan Campbell's a madman. I think this game is going to be treated more like a last week of the preseason. Starters are going to come in, play a couple quarters, win this game.
Eastern Stick again with the Chargers. And are you getting Blaine Gabbert as a backup for the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming up this weekend, too. So this makes it relatively easy for me. It probably shouldn't be, but I'm going to lay the number and give me the Chargers at home in that AFC West matchup to end the season. Brent.
Thought nobody would ever say the Chargers, huh? I mean, they're just not even good. They have
been such a loathsome group this season, have they not?
Blaine Gabbert against Easton Stick, John. I'm gonna join you on this one. It is just an ugly game. I think the Chiefs, I mean, they're struggling even without pulling all their starters off. It's going to be even worse for them. Give me the Chargers, lay it 3.5.
John, what are you talking about there?
I'm taking the Chiefs. Chargers haven't looked good the last couple of weeks, especially since the change. I think Chris Jones got a couple incentives this weekend to play for, so I think that defense is going to win them this week.
You mentioned that. It's awesome. He gets a half a sack. He gets $1.25 million. So he's going to get out there for one of those.
It's not that great. Yep. So I think they're going after
and last weekend, the Raiders came in with a purpose, and that purpose didn't get served. I still think they want Antonio Pierce to be their future coach. And losing 2 to end the season probably doesn't bode that great. Certainly you can make it look better. Raiders at home to close the season against the Broncos. We all know the Broncos situation with that of Russell Wilson and not wanting to pay him, wanting to restructure, and how that has gone haywire between he and Sean Payton, the first-year head coach there. I'm going to lay the number and give me the Raiders in Vegas coming up this weekend, Brent.
Yeah, you got Jarrett Stidham, quarterback again for the Denver Broncos. I think you're right, though. I like that Raiders squad at home in this spot. I mean, again, not really playing for anything other than their pride to wrap the year up. Give me the Raiders. I might lay the 3.
John.
Devontae Adams said he wanted Pierce. Aiden O'Connell's going to have a good game. They're going to win this game. I'm taking the Raiders.
You don't even know if Devontae Adams, is Devontae Adams going to be in the market coming up this offseason? He may want Pierce, but I don't know if there's any. He may have a different destination.
I think he's, I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hopefully back to Green Bay, though.
Larceny, Bourbon, Locks, Lunazul, Tequila shots. Bears and Packers, speaking of Green Bay. The Packers are the home favorite. Obviously, they have everything on the line for them. The Bears want to be spoilers, and the Bears, I think, can play that role. I just think it's going to be a role reversal from what you talked about last year happened to the Pack. So go ahead and lay the number. Give me the Pack at home.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. I mean, this is one of the oldest rivalries out there. Green Bay has had their pleasure with the Bears over the past, 30 years, so it's been great. But they're going to play hard. They're going to go out there. If they can go out there and beat and end on a high note. And again, the Bears have looked good the last couple of weeks. Fields is allowed to be able to do what he should be doing and what he should have been doing all along. I still think Green Bay's riding high right now. Jordan Love, he gets $1.5 million if the Packers win.
Do you miss Aaron Rodgers?
I do. I kind of like that guy. I like watching him on Tuesday at McAfee's show. Absolutely, he's a stud. But I will tell you what, if you look, it's scary. It's eerie how much Jordan Love and Rodgers are identical records almost to date with pass yards, touchdowns, everything from their first years.
Does he transition now as he gets older and coming back from an injury as a stud and interesting to a pain in the ass for whomever he's the quarterback for? Has he crossed over to that territory?
He has
too much of a pain to mess with. And frankly, I think that's what Draymond Green is in the NBA. It's almost like as much as he adds to Golden State, he's too much of a pain in the ass to want to deal with anymore.
There's a lot of baggage there. As you see, he brought a lot of baggage from Green Bay. I mean, there's 8 guys over there, and they're all standing around going, what? Nathaniel Hackett, he can't do anything unless he has 12 on the field. So it's hard to say, John. I mean, it really is. But again, scary, like John just mentioned, if you get a Devontae Adams to go over there too, and you got Garrett Wilson, you got all these weapons, Rodgers can still play. He's going to be able to ball for a couple more years. It's going to be scary how good the Jets can be. I mean, I was a little disappointed to see him go down in the first 60 seconds this year in that opening game. I wanted to see him play. I like the guy. I do. Wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah. What do you got, John?
I got the Bears to cover. I think the Packers are going to win on the last-second field goal. Jordan Love gets his incentives for making the playoffs, but the Bears are going to look like a really good team like they have the last couple of weeks.
What in the world of Sirianni has been going on in the land of Eagles on the road against the Giants coming up to close out the regular season? I'm going to go ahead and lay this road number, just simply put. I mean, can you go out as they've been going out here? You go out like this. I mean, obviously, between them and Dallas in the NFC East, there's something to play for here. But they have just looked awful. Made that switch at defensive coordinator, getting Matt Patricia, bringing him in, which I think has probably helped. But the offense looks lackluster and somewhat lost. This is not a way you want to enter the postseason, Brent Holverson.
Not at all. And, again, this big rivalry matchup, Tyrod Taylor's quarterback for the Giants. I still like Philly in this spot. Now, this will be a game I'll watch this, and I'll be watching what's going on in that Cowboys game as well, because that would be a good live betting opportunity. If you see this, see which way the Dallas game's going, that could either turn, if Dallas is up big, Philly might pull all their guys. Who knows, so keep your eye on that. But I'm going to take Philly. I'll lay the 5.
What do you got, John?
I'm taking Philly as well. I think this is their moment to kind of show it. What they got for coming into the playoffs, I think losing Steichen was a lot bigger hit than they thought it would be, but I think this is going to be kind of a get right.
All right, Larceny, Bourbon, Locks, Lunazul, Tequila shots. Carson Wentz, the starting quarterback for the Rams on the road against the 49ers. Niners 4-point favorites to close out the regular season in Santa Clara. I'm going to go ahead. I don't know why. I'm going to lay the number. All right, check that. I'm going to take the number and go ahead and give me the Rams on the road.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz against Sam Darnold.
The pride of Zionsville or Whitestown or whatever it is up there. He's still living there.
Yeah,
he likes it.
This is kind of like along the same lines as that Cleveland game, the Baltimore game. Their defenses are still stout. San Francisco's defense is stout. They're at home. Darnold, I feel comfortable with him back there more so than Wentz. I'm going to go the other way, John. Give me San Francisco, lay the 4.
What do you got over there, John?
Taking San Francisco well. The only thing Wentz is going to do well in this game is getting Puka those rookie records. Everything else is going to be bad.
And Puka, I believe, so the Rams are sitting Cooper Kupp. Kyron Williams will be sitting. Puka will be playing, but again, how long is he going to play?
Aaron Donald, he's only going to play to get that record, and then he's going to get taken out. So.
All right, 13-point favorites of the Cowboys on the road at the Commanders. Last week, the number, I think, was similar versus the Commanders, right? So this is what's interesting to me regarding the Cowboys. You come off, basically getting that game handed to you at the very end in the fashion in which they did. I think they play off of that. This is dangerous, big fat number territory right here. I'm going to lay the 13 and give me the Cowboys on the road against their rivals, but it's a lot. That's a lot of number. But I think the Cowboys have a lot of ground to cover here and certainly some focus to do what they can do in this final regular season weekend.
Yeah, the last week was that San Francisco was a 12-point favorite, and they got the job done. I think they won by 17. I think this is a Dallas. I think this just has blowout written all over it. Dallas is going to go out in there and they've got a lot to play for. They need to lock that up. So I'm going to take Dallas with it, John.
John.
I'm with you. Dallas needs this 2 seed real bad. I don't think this team is as good as they think they are. So I think Dallas is going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it handily.
They've been getting they got a little bit of help last week to make this thing more doable for them with this
absolutely.
big number, right?
That big loss by Arizona beating Philly.
For
crazy.
Something right now, too. Hey, the Bills and the Dolphins. This may be the game of the weekend. I just dropped my highlighter. That's bad news right there. I thought Buffalo's kind of interesting, too. I mean, they're a dangerous team, no question about that. But it's just been weird how their season has gone. However, I'm going to lay the number and take them on the road in South Florida coming up this weekend. What do you got?
Buffalo, 4 wins in a row. They're starting to put it together. I mean, they could be scary if they get it all going. They got the pieces. Miami's gone the wrong way. I'm going to join you. I'm going to take Buffalo.
Tyreek Hill's apparently get his house burned, and there's part of it.
He's 248 yards away from the all-time receiving record, so it could be one of those things.
Bad last week against Baltimore.
Horrible.
So bad.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, Baltimore put up 56 on them. Just made them look silly.
You can make the argument who's going into this postseason looking worse right now, the Dolphins or the Eagles?
Yeah,
both the AFC.
There are 2 teams in that conversation for sure.
What do you got over there, John?
I'm taking Buffalo. I think, if I'm correct, Josh Allen only needs 2 rushing touchdowns to set some sort of record for the Bills. So I think that's a good play for this weekend, too, if you're looking to make a little bit of extra money. But they're going into this playoff game, looking at this like a playoff game, and they're going to win this game outright.
All right, Crafters in Carmel. It's our location for our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila Shots, the final regular season weekend. And we're going to get to the game on Saturday night. It is the Colts and the Texans, and I'm going to let Brent, our betting analyst, further explain what he believes to be the movement on this line. I'm just going to put it to you as gently as possible. Don't jack around and lose this game, Colts. All right? Don't do it. Because I'm not in for this has been a great season to where, everything that you're getting is fantastic no matter what happens at the tail end because nobody picked you to do this. Nobody picked you to do that. My ass. Here's the thing. It's been a long time since this team have backed up some things and given this fan base a reason to legitimately get excited. And if you don't do that in front of your home fans in a win and you're in scenario at home against your rival Houston, the team you already beat, then I don't know what I'm going to have for you. And it's going to be an absolute rip job on Monday. And in fact, Brent, a rip job that frankly I don't want to have. So what I'm going to do, you can explain the number. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the final score. Colts 27, Texans 24. Matt Gay, the big money he got in the offseason to bring him in is going to pay the biggest of dividends and give them the margin of victory as they move on. And you kind of looked at this. I got Jacksonville losing, the Colts winning. I want the best of worlds right here. And I think Colts fans deserve this type of weekend. And Colts, any of you listening right now, give it to them. I'm not trying to be a cheerleader. I'm just telling you, Colts fans are sick and tired of being sick and tired. This is a weekend to re-inspire the fan base, the organization, the city. Don't jack around and screw it up. Colts win 27-24.
I hope you're right. I do. And again, we
better be right. I'm going to have to rip them all up on Monday, and I don't want to do that.
We talked this line movement. Again, Colts opened up as a 1-point favorite, and it's been switched to the other side.
I know.
And Houston's a 1.5-point favorite now. 2.5-point swing is big. I mean, that really is big. To answer why, we don't know. We didn't know 2 weeks ago, but Vegas was right.
They were.
I hope that you're right, 27-24.
Is what they were.
They were on target. I'm having a hard time with it because I want to take the Colts, and I'm going to take the Colts. But I would be very leery watching that number move like it has.
Well, I mean, if you don't want to take him, don't take him. I'm just my thing is, you're following. It's like when I explained IU basketball. IU basketball right now is what IU basketball has been. That's what they are right now. All right. This type of game and a losing is what the Colts have been. I want them to shed that skin and I don't care if it's a season when the backup quarterback is the quarterback. You take advantage of what is given to you, and that is the schedule, and that is these wins and this position in the final game of the regular season. Do something with it.
That's time to shine.
I say.
That's right. Absolutely right. It's time to shine. They've got everything's setting up perfectly, right? Saturday night primetime game at home. Chance to win it. They're in. They're in if they win. Then you got, like you mentioned, we saw that line move in that Jacksonville game. Tennessee pull out that upset. Then you're going to have a chance to win. It's just look at that.
Game.
It's a home game. Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? And the most exciting seasons in the NFL are the ones, I think, when you're a surprise. Not so much when you're the favorite, but when you're the surprise. This will be the surprising of the surprises. The most surprising of the surprises. Make it happen.
John, I'm going with you. Give me the Colts.
See, look,
we'll
I
take the plus 1.5.
You're on the fence right there.
Hey,
I talked you into it.
I want the Colts to win. I want to root for them to win. I want to bet on them. That line movement's scary, though. It's scary. It's going to take my bet down a couple units, but still going to go the Colts. Give me the Colts. Lay the 1.5. And get it done. You're right.
Shout out to Andy from Quack Daddy Donuts. They just brought us Quack Daddy Donuts right there from Westfield.
That's awesome.
That is well done up there right now. All right, John, what do you got over there?
I'm taking the Colts. Colts truther. I love C.J. Stroud. I think he's going to have a good game, but I think we're going to get some Minshew mania, some Minshew magic this weekend, and we're going to clinch our playoff spot.
There's some big money to be had in that Texas game too. Dalton Schultz 6 catches, $250,000, 107 yards, $250,000. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And again, keep an eye on those. That's where you make your money at this week, is on these incentive. Watch these incentive plays, because those guys go out and get it done. Those quarterbacks know who needs what. They'll keep them. If you watch over the previous years, they'll go up and say, what do you need? What do you need? You know, they're talking through it. I need 2 catches. I'll get you the ball.
Hey, old Johnny here's got some incentives, too. So I get another pregame if they go to the postseason, right?
That's right.
So that's good for old Johnny right here, too.
Really good.
That's good for the Bullseye folks, too.
That's right.
That's good for everybody around here. And then to even think about having a home playoff game. Are you kidding me? Don't blank this up, Colts. I mean, I know that it's simple for me to say, but don't blank it up.
Don't blank it up. That's right. Time to shine. And Baker, been playing well. We talked about it. Been playing well. He's out there. He's showcasing his talents for everybody to watch, too. Yeah. Primetime game, Saturday night. Go Horse.
I mean, listen, I'm gonna show up all weekend long. I'm going to be out. I'm here at Crafters today. Tomorrow, we're at the garage. Saturday, pregame show, Bullseye, Touchdown Town. And I'm going to be with this big, basically big stoplight on the side of my face. So give me some payback. Give me a reason why. Don't let it all be for naught come Monday. Right, Brent?
Absolutely right, my friend.
Oh, all right, John, what do we got here? Are the fellas over here?
Yeah,
the Braden Smith Fantasy League getting ready to
do
do
it? Look like he's having fun, but he's going. He's getting
that's the loser right there.
He's only had one wing, and he's struggling.
Oh, wow. I see a little sweat brewing underneath that eyeball. You see that?
I think that's tears, actually.
Brian, we may need to call the paramedics on that one right there.
Wow.
That doesn't look good.
He's going after
you guys
pretty
want me
good,
to turn the camera around right here?
He's going after. I like that.
He is going at it.
You got to show that.
I think he's realized that if he just gets the suffering over quicker, he'll be able to get out of here.
Man, I don't know, Brent. That looks like he's starting to look like that night I drank too much back in 1995.
I had to think of that year,
I
right?
wish we would have taken a video of Rome trying it earlier just so we could show it to him.
Everybody over 21 right there. Is he 21? We need to get him a beverage. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Right. Let's get him a water.
He's got some water. He's got some milk.
You better,
that's even better.
Look at, he got like 15 milks over there.
Yeah, he's got to stay away from the water.
We're going to bring the cow in here just a little bit. I think.
So did you get like last place? Got last place. Oh, man.
Who was your first pick? What happened?
He can't talk right now.
Hey, mine too, and I won.
Hey, James, you got to bring Beck and Loser back for us coming up on the other side. Won't you please, too? In honor of the Fantasy Football League loser right here. And we're at Crafters, and he's got the hottest wings anywhere. He's going through it right now and having a bit of a time in doing it.
Brian made that sauce, so you know he's got a little spice in there. I saw him sweating off early, and then Romy had to throw some more heat on it. So
yeah, Rome
I feel for you, man.
More. He really did.
Yep. Next year, listen to our show. We'll give you some picks for fantasy. Help you out next year.
Somebody else will be on the other side there. The innards are getting shredded right now.
There are.
Brent.
I still got sweat beads. I love that. That's awesome.
It's Brent Holverson. It's John. We're at Crafters. We'd love to see you here with our Larceny, Bourbon, and Lunazul Tequila shots. And a friend of these dudes going to join us on the other side, Braden Smith and the Boilermakers. He's coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, it's Dan Dockage here. I have been on the Affinity Whole Health Testosterone Program for 10 months, and man, has it been life-changing. More energy to go out and do the things that at my age, 61 years old, I probably shouldn't be doing, like 36 holes of golf and then pickleball in a day. If you want to learn more about it, go to feelgreatindy.com and see what they can do for you. What they've done for me is they've given my active life back.
With JMV.
Son, you got a panty on your head. Just drive fast, eh?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, man. Fulton is in the house. How's my dude doing over there right now? It is a struggle. Beck and Loser. When you lose in Braden Smith's Fantasy Football League, this is what happens to you right here. Crafters 146 in Carmel. Larceny, Bourbon Locks, Lunazul, Tequila Shots. Mike Chappell still to come. Hey, Jim, hold on one second. I'm coming out there. And we'll also talk with Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers, a little bit later on. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, one of the reasons why this is his home base. Sophomore guard for the Boilermakers, the former Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana. Braden Smith joins us again on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Braden, thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Outstanding. All right. So I want to get a little background here because Brian, the owner of Crafters, reached out to me and said, get Braden Smith on with you. And I may have initially felt that he was talking about a different Braden Smith, but now that we know which Braden Smith we're talking about, give me a little background on your relationship with Brian and Crafters, knowing it as well as you do.
Yeah, so like I said, just my dad was really good friends with him, knew him for a pretty decent amount of time. So being around the area that Brian runs his restaurant. We went there to get a decent amount and just built a really good connection with him. So that's how we know him.
Well, it's a great place. I've been here for Pacer games before and things like that, but it's always a good time here, and we're doing our normal Thursday Pick'em show here this evening, and thank you for joining us. And I mentioned as I brought you on here, I thought that you guys and your performance on Tuesday night in Maryland, I thought that was a professional type of win. It's not like everything went right, and you didn't blow the doors off, but you beat a team that's very tough to beat at home, in an atmosphere that will be conducive where you have that number one target on your back. I just thought overall that was a professional type of win for you and your teammates. Feel that way to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going in there, they had like a 19 to 20 game win streak at home, which was the longest out of any team for a while. So going in there, we knew we had to kind of just go in there with the right mindset of trying to win that game in the best way possible, because last year we went in there and they beat us there. So having that mindset of just being able to try to overcome that and just try to figure out to leave there with the W.
Yeah, and I mean, you look around and you look at this team, and I mentioned the target on your back. That's something obviously you've soaked up as being a member of this team the past couple of years. How is that to deal with night in and night out, and knowing you're going to get the team's best shot because of your status, being number one, being at the top of the Big Ten? What's your approach night in and night out?
Yeah, I think it's just the same thing for us. I mean, we got to keep it consistent. Being the number one team for 3 consecutive years, I mean, like, it's everybody knows who you are. You got that target on your back, like you said, and just kind of just going out there and just doing our thing. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a ranking, and it doesn't matter. It's really just how you guys play at the end of the day. So I think we just focus more on that and just how we can get the win and move on to the next game.
He is the former Indiana Mr. Basketball from Westfield High School. He is the point guard for the Boilermakers, Braden Smith, with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. All right, you're number 2, coming off an incredible high school career. And when I talk to Matt always speaks volumes of what you knew coming in. But I want to play off of what you have gathered, what you have learned and embraced moving forward. In the past, over a year and a half, you played college basketball at Purdue. What have you learned, and what is essentially the biggest part of what you have learned to this point in your career there?
I think just maturing and learning how to be a better leader. I think basketball comes, and I mean, obviously you're going to get better as long as you put the work in. So I think just those other things that sometimes you may not have learned, like just been able to kind of be good at, because I mean, usually in high school it's just, you're just trying to get better and try to get to that spot, that next level. So I think coming here, I've had a lot of good role models and a lot of good people around me to kind of ask questions, kind of learn from, and just try to figure out how to lead my teammates and just put them in the right positions.
I know Brooks Barnheiser very well at Northwestern. I know you've played against him, too, when he was at Lafayette Jeff. And I'd ask him this question last year about when it slowed down for him, when the game slows down. Because obviously when you get into high school, there's a point where, you get used to things and the game slows down for you. When did that occur for you as a freshman? When did that game at the collegiate level slow down for you?
Yeah, I think it was more just towards the middle of the year of my freshman year. Just once you kind of get a couple of those games under your belt, you kind of just realize, like, hey, like, the game's all flow. Everything comes and goes. I mean, just taking it little by little, and I think learning that and kind of just seeing that, not focusing more on, like, time and all that stuff, but just realizing that, hey, it's going to come at a certain time, and once the game flows, I mean, you feel so much better, so.
Job one is you, as the team leader, every night when you step on the floor. The thing you have to do above all else, expectation-wise, what is it?
For myself, I think is just to be the best leader I can be and put people in the right positions to be successful. I think that's my biggest thing. I mean, my coaches and I think parents and teammates would say to score first. But in my opinion, as a point guard, those are my 2 things.
You play better with a chip on your shoulder. I always said this. The motivational chip is a very important thing to many out there. How well do you utilize that night in and night out to get you where you are? That motivation of never being satisfied where you are, always thinking that maybe somebody may have an upper hand, so maybe somebody's working a little bit harder. How much of that motivational chip have you had to get you to where you are right now?
Yeah, I think I've had that my whole life, just kind of being the smallest guy on the floor. You got to play that way. So, or else you won't make it very far, right? So,
yeah,
I'm a very competitive person in general. And just when people always like to compare, say someone's better than, I feel like I take that challenge and kind of just prove people wrong. I think that I've just done that my whole life and continuing to do it. And I'm hoping that the work I put in and will show eventually.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that too. It was a lot more difficult, for example, when I played in high school and stuff, to find stuff about you that people were saying. It's a lot easier for you to do that right now. Do you use reading stuff, seeing stuff as motivational fuel about when people kind of downplay your game? Do you use that at all, or do you stay away from it?
Yeah, I say it's a mixture of both. I mean, I see obviously what people say. Everybody does nowadays, just with social media and stuff. But I mean, I try to go out there and just prove myself wrong more than anything, or prove myself right more than anything. Just because, I mean, I've worked my butt off to get here in the first place, so I know I deserve to be here. And along with everybody else on the team, I mean, it's just everybody deserves to be there because they've all worked their butt off to get there. And I think just seeing that and then using that on top of it is just like a little booster, I guess.
It's Braden Smith, the sophomore of the Boilermakers. Purdue and Illinois coming up on Friday night. And again, we're here at Crafters here on this Thursday. And family friends would be Brian and Braden and his family right now. So we thought it appropriate to have Braden on here on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. What do you think about Illinois? Illinois absolutely blew the doors off of Northwestern on Tuesday night, a team that obviously beat you going back to December. What's your thought on the Illini and what you're going to see on Friday night?
Yeah, they're definitely a really good team. They play quick. They're super aggressive. They're a good offensive rebounding team. So we definitely got to be boxing out. And, I mean, I just think if we play our game and do what we're supposed to and stick to our game plan, I think we'll be all right. But just being able to kind of stop them and get them kind of in a slower play style, I think would benefit us most.
Hey, Braden, what's it like playing with Zak Keefer?
Unbelievable. I mean, just the things that he does. I mean, he's not only a great basketball player, he's just a great person in general. So he's really fun to be around and obviously fun to be on the court with.
Now, obviously, you had a great high school career that ended with the Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana at Westfield. How did that compare to this next step you've taken at Purdue? And obviously, the leadership, the coaching, the guidance you had at Westfield with that of Matt Painter. I have a great deal, Braden, of admiration for Matt. I just think that he is, to me, like state-of-the-art as a coach to deal with all that is going on in collegiate basketball right now, the ever-changing world. How is he to you as a coach, as a sophomore?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the best coach in college basketball. He's just super, super smart. He's really good with his X's and O's. He understands the game of basketball. He sees things that a point guard would see. He sees things that I see, and it's just super helpful to kind of have because he understands it. And when you're talking to somebody that's so smart about something that you enjoy and that you're in, it's kind of cool just seeing all the stuff that he can kind of find and figure out.
Yeah, and he's going to figure it out for you right then and right there, I'd imagine, too. So, and
sure.
The other thing, it seems to me like he treats everybody exactly the same, no matter what your status is with the team. I mean, you play hard, and that's going to keep you on the floor. If you don't, that's going to get you pulled from the floor.
For sure. I mean, he keeps his word. I think that's the main reason why I committed here. Just that's what he said. He said, if you work hard and you're good enough, you'll play. And I think just hearing that, like knowing myself, like I know I put a lot of work in, so I'm like, all right, well, I'll have a chance at least. Like, and just hearing him from that, and it goes for everybody. Like everybody's working their butt off. I mean, TK made a huge jump from last year to this year. Now he's starting. So, I mean, it just shows that what he says and what he says just really kind of just plays a part in all of us.
It's Braden Smith of the Boilermakers with us. How long did you allow yourself to go back and reflect on that loss in the NCAA tournament, and how long thereafter did you put that to bed?
Yeah, I think it was actually the day after. I didn't really try to think about it too much. I mean, I'm not making any excuses, but I mean, it's just another game. Everybody's in that tournament for a reason. They were a good team, and they deserve to be there. So, I mean, it's a game at the end of the day. It's 0-0 to start, and they played better than us that day. So, I mean, they got the best of us that day.
The Friday night matchup with the Illinois Fighting Illini and hanging out with us. You know, honestly, I wish it were at some point when we're at Crafters again, you got to come and join us. Would you be cool with that?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, love to have you down here. A great place in Carmel, and there's a connection between owner Brian and Braden Smith and his family right there. So we thought it appropriate to bring Braden on the show today, and we appreciate that. Hey, tell everybody up there we said hello. Go get them coming up on Friday night, Braden, and we will do it again soon. Thank you. By the way, too, I should mention at the very end here, has anybody ever mixed you up interview-wise with Colts right tackle Braden Smith? Has that ever happened at all in your life?
No, this is the first, for sure.
Hey, man, thanks for being cool as hell. I appreciate you more than you know, and we shall do this again very soon. Have a great game on Friday and a great rest of the season, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Braden Smith right there, former Mr. Basketball, Boilermaker on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Listen, I'm honest as hell, and truth be told, initially when they were talking about Braden Smith, I thought they were talking about Braden Smith of the Colts. And I think that's what people here thought until he got on and called during the break. And I said, well, this is Braden Smith of the Boilermakers. True story right there. And I said, man, it's okay. I'll talk to any Braden Smith whatsoever, especially the one that's a sophomore, the number 1 ranked Boilermakers of Purdue. And that is where the connection lies. You get the connection between Braden and his family and Brian, the owner here at Crafters. That's really cool, though, man. I appreciate that, Brian, for setting that up. Thank you, Braden, for being cool, for coming on and thinking that was kind of funny, which I did as well. If any of you remember, and I know that those that used to be on our message board at the other station remember this, that had all the signs of the Rick Cerrone interview going. This goes back, I don't know, 14, 15 years. The Rick Cerrone interview that I had with the Yankees. And some out there that have been with me all these years know exactly what I'm talking about. It was both, I don't know how you would explain it. It was it was weird, but it would go down in history as one of my finest. There's some similarities right there. But, man, Braden's good dude right there. There's no doubt about that. And he and the Boilermakers having a fantastic year. Again, they get Illinois coming up tomorrow night at home and coming off that win on Tuesday night over Maryland. Braden Smith of the Boilermakers with us via the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. And we're doing it because we're live at Crafters today. And it's a Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots final weekend of the regular season, and we are live at Crafters. More of me and more of you coming up. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Join JMV today at Crafters Pizza and Draft House.
He looks like Rascal Flatts guy.
Got a cool soul patch.
He does, and a buttery smooth voice.
Oh, yeah.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Shout out to Braden Smith of the Boilermakers. I was trying to tell you a story at the end. So this is how this happened. Brian here at Crafters. We're at Crafters here on the Larceny Bourbon Locks Lunazul Tequila Shots Thursday. He set me up. He texted me and said, hey, I'm going to get Braden Smith on the show. And, of course, I'm thinking about the Colts, and I'm thinking about Braden Smith of the Colts. So I actually called the Colts. I don't think I told you guys that. And said, hey, I think Braden Smith's coming on with me Thursday when I'm in Carmel. You guys okay with that? And, of course, the Colts said, yeah, absolutely fine. So I'm waiting on this call, and Braden calls, and I said, hey, what are you thinking about this matchup with the Texans this weekend? And Braden said, well, I haven't thought much about it because we play Illinois. I'm the Boilermaker guard and the former Mr. Basketball, Braden Smith. And I went, oh, okay. That Braden Smith. And then it occurred to me, and go ahead and get Brent's mic on here. Brent Holverson rejoins us. It occurs to me that we're here in Carmel, close to Westfield and Westfield High School, Mr. Basketball, Braden Smith, and that's who Brian was talking about, not the Colts right tackle.
Had to switch gears quickly, huh?
Yeah.
Your mind had already prepared for one thing?
Well, and I said that, that's okay, because I had been kind of going over Purdue notes and their matchup with Illinois, so I was ready for it. And obviously, I know him a great deal and watch Purdue basketball, so I know all about him and things of that nature. But it was interesting, and he was really cool about it. But I thought, God, what am I doing? And it reminded me, back when I was at the other station, this goes back probably 15 years ago or so, I got an email at the time, and you really couldn't look this stuff up. I think it may have been prior to Google. I can't remember. But a baseball guy named Rick Cerrone that worked for the Yankees wanted to come on and talk about something. And Rick Cerrone is a former catcher of the Yankees, right? And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds cool, Rick Cerrone. And I knew about, Rick Cerrone is the catcher for the Yankees, and thought there'd be some really good material there. And I had him on, and it wasn't Rick Cerrone of the Yankees in the past. It was just some guy in the Yankees organization named Rick Cerrone. He was like their head of media. And I kept asking him about games. I asked him about, what did it feel like to catch Ron Guidry? And he goes, hey, listen, I've told you 3 times now, I'm not that Rick Cerrone. I'm Rick Cerrone in the media office with the Yankees. I didn't catch Ron Guidry. I didn't catch Goose Gossage, all right? I didn't play alongside Don Mattingly. I was their media guy. And I went like 3 and 4 questions deep and refused to believe that he was not Rick Cerrone, the former Yankees catcher. Yeah,
oh, it's
and
classic.
that will live in infamy. And people that we used to have a message board called a baggery, and whether you're Ravensdale or Greenwood Red or Houday, all of our friends that I've had for all these years that listen to the show know that to be my greatest interview of all time. Because I actually, it was 4 and 5 questions deep with Rick Cerrone, who was the wrong Rick Cerrone at the time. And that kind of brought back the memories with Braden Smith when I was going to introduce him as the Colts right tackle. In fact, I believe, James, correct me if I'm wrong, I think on the promo today, right? The promo said right tackle, Braden Smith. Did it not?
It did
I
before
today?
It did before we pulled it from the air.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Again, when I tell you that I'm as dumb as they come, that's not show fodder or shtick. Sometimes I am truly as dumb as they come.
Oh, wow.
That's a reminder.
That's awesome, man. I got to pull that up and listen to that.
I've never caught Ron Guidry in my life, man.
The front
never
office
caught
guy.
Goose Gossage ever.
Hey, good
Wrong,
luck.
Cerrone.
Good luck to you, my friend. The guy that just ate those wings.
I saw him.
I think he's taking him to the hospital, maybe.
He's waddling out of here a little bit right here.
Yeah,
with
he
good
might
reason.
have some heat.
Again, our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila Shots is live from Crafters today at Carmel. Great selections. Braden Smith from Purdue did join us. We got more to come with Mike Chappell and Chris Denari in the 5 o'clock hour. I did not get your thoughts about that line movement regarding the Colts and the Texans. What are you thinking about that right now?
Again, it's hard to say if that's some kind of a little ploy by Vegas out there, because there's nothing that I can find that's really showing it why. Again, Strouds look great. I think, people seen them come back last week. Yeah. But again, the line opened up at 1. It took a couple days, and then it moved pretty big. So there's something interior there, or again, it's just a little bit of a chess game with Las Vegas. I don't know.
So our betting analyst, Brent Holverson, right there. Shout out to Fulton. Fulton is here, everybody, as I let it be known, too. And my man Brian from Floors to Your Home also showed up here in Carmel today. We appreciate that, too. So a lot of folks are out on this Thursday, and we love the fact that you're here. The free samples, Brent, they're flowing.
They are flowing. They are flowing, my friends. And come on out and join us. We're here for another hour plus.
Oh,
they got some great food, great staff, and some good samples to enjoy.
We got to go after some wings ourselves here, too. There's no doubt about it.
Might want to stay off the hot sauce.
I'm not doing that right there. I'll be going to the ER here locally in Carmel if I were to do that. All right, bottom of the hour, Chris Denari. Pacers, 5 consecutive wins, 4 of 5 this season over the Bucks. They go Hawks, Celtics coming up at home. We shall talk about that with Chris Denari, bottom of the hour. Mike Chappell on the injury reports and the matchup with the Texans, a win and you're in the postseason situation. That's coming up next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's win and end. It's one and done. It's do or die. Insert your cliche here. The Ride with JMV.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Thank you for joining us. I brought up the Baggery back in the day, right? The message board. DBO was in the house today. DBO and son Garrett. They're big-time listeners of the JMV Takeover. We thank them for being here today at Crafters, Sweera, and Carmel. Now, there's been a bit of a debate whether or not this is Carmel or Westfield. I have been told officially this is Carmel. 146, Carmel, Hatfield, Carmel. You guys, this is Carmel, right? Somebody had tweeted at me suggesting this is Westfield. Are they just trying to get a little bit of Westfield into Carmel right here? Well, make sure. I mean, I've already messed up the Braden Smith from yesterday, mind you. But to make sure. Crafters and Carmel on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. He does join us. The way that you look at the injury report, I guess you can look at it this way in terms of the game, Mike, on Saturday night. The Colts, it does look a lot better, although it still, I guess, stands to question whether or not Ryan Kelly is going to be able to participate. Your thoughts on that, and then what the Texans are going through with their injury situation certainly seems to be a little bit more severe.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to not sometimes, all the time it's hard to kind of read injury report. I think Kelly plays. Quentin Nelson's limited. I mean, these guys would need to have bones sticking out of their legs to not play. With Houston losing, Grenard's, it's, he's their, he and Will Anderson are their outside studs. So losing 12.5 sacks and 15 tackles for loss and 20-some quarterback hits, that's a big deal. But Will Anderson is still, he's not Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby. He's pretty good. But, yeah, it's really hard. And they've got a lot of guys listed questionable on there. And I noticed was one of the receivers hasn't practiced all week and is listed questionable. It's never a good thing when you don't practice at all. That's why it was important for Ryan Kelly to get out there today and go through practice. And this is as healthy of an injury report, participation report as a team could really have this late in the season for the Colts. It really is. Houston, we'll see. Again, a lot of questionables with some pretty important people, but the fact that they've already ruled out their top pass rusher, that's a big deal.
Well, it really is, too. I mentioned this. I know a lot of people say, hey, it's been a season that you didn't think was going to happen, and win or lose, it is going to be one of those seasons where you look back on it fondly. I completely disagree. This, to me, is a situation that you take advantage of because it's right there for you. And we have seen them fall flat on their face recently and trying to take advantage of these situations. I'm not worried about the future. I'm not looking at this as house money. I'm looking at this as having a team in your house where you can close out, go to the postseason, wait on Sunday, find out what Jacksonville does, maybe even make greater strides. I don't look at this as house money. I look at this as an absolute. How about you?
Yeah, no, the thing is, say they lose. This is if they lose, then in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, you sit back and say, 9-8 was pretty good with all the garbage they had to deal with injuries and suspensions. That's when at some point you will come to the realization that this was pretty good, 9 wins and all this. But no, you're right. This is, we were talking to Michael Pittman today, and he said this before. He said, as a rookie, he comes in here with Uncle Phil, and they make the playoffs, and he thinks, hey, this is pretty good. We're going to do this every year. Well, then you find out, no, you don't know. The future's not promised to you. And while you think they've got a lot of really, really good pieces in place, you're going to get the quarterback back, the rookie, him back next year, and all this. And boy, we should be a lot better. You don't know. You just don't. They can play balls out next year with a really strong roster, and the ball bounces wrong, and the kick goes off the uprights or whatever. So no. When you're in this situation, no one's expected to be here, of course. Vegas had both of these teams at 6.5 over under, and I must admit that I took the under, so I'm out $25. But no, when you get in this situation, you maximize it because you just don't know. I tell you, some of these players won't be here next year. That's just a fact of life. So when you get in here and it's at home, it's prime time, and if they come out flat, like they've done maybe once or twice this year, Cincy was a bad experience, but it was not here. If they come out flat, then shame on them. I think they come out and play, go balls out, and if you get beat, you get beat, but don't go meekly like they did in Jacksonville and even the prior week against the Raiders. So I think they come out and play well, and hopefully this secondary, which scares the bejesus out of me, holds up against C.J. Stroud, because he's the real deal. I realize he's a rookie, but they can light you up if you're not careful. But that's what, bring the pass rush, get him off his spot, and make him do things, and then just play the way you've played in good games this year and see what happens at the end of the night.
He's Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. Crafters in Carmel on a Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila Shots Thursday. 146. We'd love to see you here. Good to see you, Sarah and Romy. You guys take it easy. Talk to you guys tomorrow night on the JMV Takeover. Mike, I was thinking about it in terms of this. If there are close to absolutes, and they're not absolutes, but something that I think that the Colts can lean on and do right to get them a win on Saturday night, it's up front. It's the offensive line with Jonathan Taylor. It's the defensive line that can create a little bit of havoc against C.J. Stroud, whereas we know where Gus Bradley's going to stand as far as presenting pressure or blitzing is concerned. I do think that is as close to absolutes as this team is going to have. So I guess I mean this. If those things, either side, don't go right on Saturday, the Colts are going to be in real trouble.
Yeah, I would rather – I mean, this will come down to Minshew making those plays we talk about, the 4, 5, or 6 plays that a quarterback has to make. But I will be more encouraged if Jonathan Taylor rushes for 95 yards. He finally gets his first 100-yard game since last year. And Zach Moss, I think Zach Moss plays, and I think he brings a different thing to him in the run game. But when they've been really good, it's not Minshew throwing for 300 yards necessarily. It's the offensive line kind of wearing down and taking the heart out of the Steelers, and the defensive line getting after the quarterback. What did they get, Stroud? Was it 6 sacks in the first game? Which is, seems like a year ago. But no, I agree. That's the strength. That's the strength of the team. Offensive line, defensive line, and the offensive line. Again, I think Kelly will play, and I'd forgotten, but he missed the second half of that game in week 2 with a concussion. So, and you've got Braden Smith back, and he's been through a lot. It's funny. Social media it's informative and sometimes it's entertaining, because people were saying when he was out there, this Blake Freeland guy's playing pretty well. Let's just get rid of Braden Smith because his contract next year. And you want to say, you people are idiots. What are you talking about? Braden Smith is a quality right tackle, and yes, he's expensive because that's what it costs to get you a quality right tackle. So getting him back makes a world of difference, and that's not to throw shade on Freeland, because they threw him out there and sort of said, swim. I think he's got a great future here as a swing backup tackle. But this is going to be up front, and that's what Chris Ballard has always preached, which sometimes rubs us the wrong way, because you could also bring in a receiver, for crying out loud. But having an offensive line that can give Taylor and Moss some time, and if they get some room, these guys are still quality backs, and Houston's got a pretty good run defense. And the defense has got to get after Stroud, because he's just too good. If you leave him back there, and he'll play 7 on 7 in practice type stuff with you, and you can't do that. So I think you're right. Again, Minshew scares me. He does. And that's just me. But also the secondary gives me pause, because they've made it clear that by what they've done and how they've handled it, that they're sort of trying to find things. And when you're still trying to find combinations this late in the season, it's either because of injury or performance. But again, it's there for them, and this is the game where this is how we build the roster. This is how we win. It's not throwing the ball 45 times necessarily. It's really trying to get the run game going as much as you can, and riding that, and then make the Texans play catch up. Remember, it was 31-10 in that game, early in the season, so things really went well. People forget that Anthony Richardson started that game. It was so long ago, but this is where if you're sitting there in July and August and you tell Shane Steichen, hey, how about that last game of the season? We'll guarantee you it's win or end. Did you say, of course. Forget that 6.5 over under and all that stuff. This is where you want to be. It's at home. I agree with you. Seize the moment. Now, if they lose, it's not a trash season like it's been recently. But this is hey, you're in position. Take care of it. And then again, like you say, you win, and then who knows? Sunday afternoon at 4:00, maybe you're hosting a first round game,
which would be hilarious. Like the trash season notwithstanding, if they lose, that will be so much like some of these seasons that wasn't a circus a year ago, but some of these seasons we've seen them go out, and especially the year before last. I just think, to me, it would be like the same old if they lost. And
yeah, but
I know this. And I get what you're saying about this, but I mean, you're in the best position possible where you are right now.
I agree.
Just don't be the team that we have seen recently and blow it. All right? Flip the script on that. And that's my expectation. Backup quarterback, faulty secondary, all that crap or not. That's my expectation.
Well, and you're right. And you're exactly right. All I'm saying is that you're obviously a guy who's going to need more than 2 or 3 weeks of decompression to appreciate what these guys have done, and I understand that. But again, very few people thought they would be anywhere near this position. But now that you are, never mind that you should have beaten Cleveland, you should have beaten the Saints, but you beat Baltimore, which still is crazy as can be. But no, here you are. Every season you beat somebody. They beat Kansas City 2 years ago or last year, for crying out loud. But yeah, it's you're here, and that's why it's Shane Steichen has sort of said he's like Frank Reich with the details and preparation, and I understand that. But what he says is, we talked to Kenny Moore today. He said we don't need superheroes. We just need guys to do their jobs. We don't need to see two DBs pointing at each other with, Puka Nacua running in there in overtime with a winning touchdown. We've seen 3 or 4 of those plays this year. Go out there and play your game, and make the Texans make plays to beat you. Don't just have where you're pointing at each other. Well, I thought you had the guy. No, I thought you had it. No, go out there and play well. If they play well, and then I'll take whatever they get. Just don't lay an egg, because it would leave initially a bad taste. But then I promise you, in maybe your March, I don't know, or April, but you will appreciate what they did. But 100%, here you are, one game. I don't care if they can make a deep run in the playoffs. I do not care. Just getting there would be a tremendous achievement.
Yeah, and to me, there's a huge gap between the way that you feel if you lose about the season as a whole and the way that you're going to feel if you make the postseason. And again, that is for me. And here's the other thing. I've seen the stat, 5-0. I think John McClain had this, the great guy, the former writer, still writing, but former Houston Chronicle writer down in Houston. 5-0, Jonathan Taylor, in games played against the Texans. Now, he did not play, obviously, in that Week 3 matchup that they won down in Houston. But these are the types of games as to the reason why you extend and you pay Jonathan Taylor, the reason why you pay the most for your place kicker. These type of situations with a team like this is built for this situation to me. And those two guys are at the top of the list of you got to bring it, and you got to bring it hard on Saturday night for this team to get a win.
Right, and that's why you're gonna extend or franchise Michael Pittman. We saw what
exactly
what this team
correct
is without him.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought that the left tackle was the guy. If he's not out there, you got a bad left tackle that the offense seizes up. This year, Michael Pittman is that guy. It was truly amazing the game he missed, how bad they were. They couldn't operate, and to see him have the season he has. But you're right. This is we've yet to really see Jonathan Taylor give not the effort at all, not at all, but the performance that comes with an extension. We've seen good games, we've seen little bursts here and there. This is a game where he and Zach Moss really need to sort of just kind of lay the wood to Houston's defense. If nothing else, if you can run the ball, 25, 30 times effectively, it does shorten the game. It does take away maybe one or two possessions from C.J. Stroud. I remember one of the great defenses against Peyton Manning was ball control. Instead of giving him 12 possessions, you gave him 8. Now, he still carved people up with 8 possessions. But, yeah, everything you say is true with Jonathan Taylor and the lines and all that, and I couldn't agree more with you. I'm still waiting for that signature Jonathan Taylor game, where it was 24 for 140. I'm not expecting that because I think they're going to mix in Zach Moss a lot, and we forget how good he was early in the season. You're
he
right.
had 88 yards, I think, on the ground in that win in Houston in Week 3, didn't he?
That was his first game. Remember, he didn't play the opener, and we had Deion Jackson.
Yeah.
So but everything you say is right. It's there. It's with all the stuff that they've gone through, again, injuries and suspensions and the Drew Ogletree thing and all that, and so much outside their control has fallen in their favor. I'm not talking about the officials being awful in those 2 games, but backup quarterbacks, and we were talking in the media room, and we were trying to think this will be the best quarterback they've faced since who? Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. I mean, people say Mayfield, but I'd say Lawrence, or going all the way back to Stafford. Yeah, and I mean Stafford was hobbling around. That's one of those games that's one of those games at the end I kind of blame. And I know that there was a busted coverage and such, but prior to that, I kind of put on Gus Bradley because I mean he was a guy that couldn't even move, and you couldn't put any pressure on him. So but you're right. That's probably the 2 guys that would pop into my mind too.
So, but all that's fallen in place for them, and they've taken advantage of it. And they've played poorly in some games. Everybody does. I remember that Denver gave up 70. I mean, everybody plays poorly at some point. But here's where you are. This is when, I was looking back at some of these. This is, I think, like the 5th time they've gone into the last game of the season, and it's win and end. And they had won Payton's last year. In 2010, they had to win to assure getting in. So this is what you sign up for. This is what all these guys say. It's in their control, and it would be a bad look to have a team that's pretty much like who you are. You're in rebuild, and you've exceeded expectations, and they come into your building and steal your dinner. You don't want to see that. So just finish it, and then whatever happens in the playoffs, this is money.
Yeah, it's Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline with us. Texans, Colts again, 4:30. Ride to kickoff begins with me at the Bullseye Event Center with bullseyeeventgroup.com. We got some passes coming up for you in just a bit. Meantime, this is probably better question-wise for after the season, but you brought up Michael Pittman Jr., and you brought up what's going to happen. Is he going to get that extension? Is he going to get a franchise tag? He seems like a guy, and that's just been how he has been to this point. A guy that if you do franchise tag him, right, where most, especially wide receivers, would be very diva-like, diva-esque in how they respond and sitting out of this and sitting out of that. He seems to me, at least right now, like a guy that would not behave that way. Would you agree, or is it all still kind of a fluid situation until we're there?
I would disagree. And it's all speculation, but from talking to him, as we have, if they franchise him, we need to have a pool on what late day in August we will see Michael Pittman. I just think he won't react nicely to it. I don't think he'll come out and just, I'll never play for this team. That's not the case. It's going to be I want a long-term contract, and this is how you do it. So I'll see you when I see you. I don't know that he'll sit out games. I don't think he would do that. But I don't think he would react nicely to being franchised, although the franchise tag is, I don't know, over the cap has it like $23.9 million, which is pretty good money. I mean, really.
Yeah.
But, no, I don't think he reacts nicely at all to it.
See, I haven't heard anything where he has said, he kind of just says, hey, whatever happens, happens. So that's he does it or the fact that he believes he's going to get the extension.
But he also said Jonathan Taylor put down a pretty good blueprint of how to handle that situation, which meant withholding screw that ankle. I mean, this was so much more about the contract than it was the ankle. I'll go to my grave saying
no, there's
that.
no doubt. Yeah.
So he just said, that was sort of, he showed guys how to do things, and he got his money. Maybe he'll shock me. And if anyone thinks he's going to give these guys a hometown discount, they're delusional. He's not. He understands business. He's getting to be one of my favorite players because he just understands things. So will they give him 4 years, $100 million? I don't know. Chris Ballard and these guys have to have a grunt level. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that's going to, 23.9. If that's the franchise number, that's his starting asking price. It just is. So that's going to be really, really interesting. We've seen, again, we've talked, you want something more than what he's given you. I mean, as far as a total receiver, but how much of that, what we haven't seen, the deep threat routinely, how much of that is a function of the dozen quarterbacks he's played with or whatever, 6 or 7 quarterbacks he's played with. But all he has to do is flip in the Atlanta game and say, my value, here you go. You guys couldn't even put one foot in front of the other. It's going to be very interesting. I don't think you and I differ. I don't think he reacts well to the franchise tag.
Well, here's the other thing, too. Do you believe this? I think Chris views him differently than your average needs an extension type of guy here, including Jonathan Taylor.
I think Chris Ballard considers Michael Pittman like he does Quentin Nelson and some of these guys, Braden Smith and Ryan Kelly. Every time he talks about Pitt, he says, I love Pitt. And he loves the way he plays, the durability, the toughness. And the problem is, then you got to pay him. You got to pay Quentin Nelson. But we were talking again in the press room. Pitt is the ideal. Forget positions. He's the ideal type player that Ballard and these guys loves. Really, really committed and tough and durable and all that stuff. And so, but again, then like with Quentin, it comes at a really high price. I think maybe they just do give him the extension, which will be enormous. Because as we always come back to say, then the other option is to franchise him, which it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be nasty, but again, he's going to be absent. Or you try to go to plan B on the free agent market, and you're going to pay that much to bring in a guy that you know very little about. So it's not my money, but the most sensible thing is to extend him if you can stomach the enormous number and the guaranteed money. But we've seen the value of Michael Pittman, and Rick Venturi and I, we argue about this all the time, and Rick wants more, and I understand it. So do I. But this guy's pretty good.
So Mike Chappell is with us. All right, quickly before I let you go, what's your call on Saturday night?
Well,
this is a must-win. At least we can all agree on that finally with me.
Yeah, your must-win really comes up right now. This is one that, I try not to do it too often, but this is one I make with my heart instead of my head because I want to see these guys finish this. I really do. In our podcast and on CBS4, my story, it'll be Colts 27-24, but I ain't putting my money on it. Again, this is more with the heart than it is the head, but I just want to see these guys finish what's really been a pretty impressive season.
I said 27-24 as well. So that's me too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Colts. Oh yeah. I don't want to live in a world where I got to come on Monday and piss and moan about this team losing this game. I don't want to live in the world. Mike, I've lived with it too much. I've lived with it too much, and so much disappointment, and so have these fans. So I'm calling on every Colt to do something to curb that, because I'm sick and tired of seeing it. And I don't care what we're talking about with this roster. I don't care if it's not the future and the future is bright. You have no idea what the future is going to be. Zero idea. Bill Brooks told me this 2 weeks ago. You got to take advantage of the moment when the moment occurs, because you're not promised anything. And that's how I view this on Saturday night.
I totally agree. And again, I just think it'll be a cool night in downtown Indy. And again, this isn't like the Buffalo Bills. I don't want to downplay Houston. This isn't like the Buffalo Bills coming in here and you go, oh my goodness, how are we going to? No, you guys they're pretty much on even footing. They really are. Put your best foot out there and don't turn the ball over 4 times and see what you got.
Well done. It's Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. Awesome as always. We'll see you on Saturday night up there.
I'll be there. Talk to you later.
Mike Chappell, Crafters in Carmel is our location on 146. Brent Holverson rejoins. Denari's coming up on the other side. So we had Braden Smith a little bit earlier. Obviously a former star of Westfield, the Shamrocks. Sophomore with Purdue. We have another former Shamrock star in Denari, voice of the Pacers. Pacers 5 consecutive wins, 4 of 5 this season against the Bucks. They've got Atlanta tomorrow night, Boston on Saturday night, Boston again at the Fieldhouse on Monday night. We'll talk to Chris about that and the largest numbers we've seen in a while on Bally last night with that Bucks game in mind. Chris is going to join us coming up on the other side. Hey, Crafters in Carmel, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
In order for small businesses to thrive, they need to be smart, efficient,
Boom-ba. Sis boom-ba. Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I got to thank Brian and everybody here at Crafters for a great time today. Brent Holverson is going to rejoin in a second. Our betting analyst from Heaven Hill Distillery, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots. From Carmel on 146, still time for you to get here. I saw so many people, too. If you joined us today, thank you very much. If you didn't, you got another opportunity inside the garage at Bottle Works tomorrow on a Bud Light Blue Friday. Texans and Colts tickets to give away as well. Hey, by the way, DBO. Shout out to DBO and Garrett from the old school Baggery message board back in the day off of Fall Creek Road. That's DBO, who did mention Don Stuck a little bit earlier, too. DBO and Garrett, who showed up here. They're big-time fans of the JMV takeover. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, voice of the Pacers, Valley Sports Indiana, who had incredible numbers last night with that Pacer win over the Bucks. Chris Denari joins us. And, you know, it's interesting. I had Braden Smith on a little bit earlier, former Mr. Basketball, Westfield Shamrock, and I have an old-school Westfield Shamrock guard on right now in Chris Denari. So it's all kind of coming together, Chris, if you will.
A lot of fun. I listened to Braden, and it's been great to see what he's done at Purdue. You know, back in the day, I would have never thought when I was at Westfield High School that one day there would be a Mr. Basketball from Westfield. But Braden has represented Westfield so well, and so proud of what he's doing up at Purdue for Matt Painter. And it's a great run right now. I mean, the Colts have a chance to go to the playoffs. A young team on the upswing. You've got the Pacers, 5 straight wins. You've got Purdue #1 in the country. Butler plays tomorrow night. IU plays Ohio State. I was listening to you earlier, and you're right. If you can't be excited about this time of year, you don't really need to be working in sports, because it's really fantastic what's going on right now.
No, it is, too. Now, you guys had big numbers. That was the largest viewing audience since the Lance return game last night. Is that what you told me?
Yes, it was the largest on Bally. I mean, we had some higher numbers earlier this year with TNT and ESPN, but from a Bally-only telecast, it was the highest-rated game in 2 years since the Lance return game 2 years ago. So it was great to see so many people tuning in. Just another really good win. I mean, John, we were talking, a few weeks ago, after you lose 6 of 7, you're 14-14 just before Christmas. And you look at a schedule that includes at Houston, who was 12-2 at home, at Chicago, always tough on the Pacers, New York, and then back-to-back games with Milwaukee. And, probably the realist would say, hey, if you could go 3-2 in that situation, you'd feel pretty good. And here we are. The Pacers have gone 5-0. And right now, probably playing the best basketball they've played all year.
Yeah, let's start with Tyrese Haliburton, who's just putting up incredible numbers. And beyond his shot-making ability, just beyond him as a leader of this team, he makes everybody out there better, night in and night out. And that is such a value, and a value that we have not seen around here in a long time. And that's nothing against the past players here, but that's just what makes him different / unique, is he has that ability to not only get his to the level in which everybody expects, but to make everybody else out there on the floor with him better. That's what he does, and that's one of the reasons why he's one of the best that we have seen around here to this point, certainly, and the sky seems to be the limit.
Oh, and he's only in year 4. I mean, he's got the extension for 5 more years, great leader, great person, and you can just tell the joy that he plays with, and it's infectious with his teammates. I mean, the thing that I've, enjoyed so much watching this group is you've got about 10 guys that at any point can be on the floor in a closing situation. Rick Carlisle has confidence in his bench. He has confidence in whatever kind of arrangement he has to have out there, and a lot of it depends on, that particular night, how is a certain player playing. But there's no question that Tyrese orchestrates everything. And, I made a list. I mean, John, the Pacers have won 19 games, and 10 or 11 of them are down the stretch because of big plays that Haliburton's made, either finding somebody for a pass or hitting three-point shots or hitting three-point shots and getting fouled for a 4-point play. I mean, it's been rather remarkable to watch him do this on a nightly basis. And I think, he's very comfortable with what happens if you miss. And I think all great players have to go through that. They know that they're not going to make all of them, and you've got to be wanting to take that shot or make that pass. And there's no question about that. And then, today to see that in the Eastern Conference, he's the leading vote getter among guards. That's not just people here in Central Indiana voting. That's people all over the country. So he definitely is getting recognized, and his star is very bright right now.
It's Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers. Again, it's the Celtics and the Pacers on Saturday. Prior to that, tomorrow, the Hawks in town. And then you got that home and home on Saturday, Monday with the Celtics at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Chris on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Since the change that Rick Carlisle made in the starting lineup, we have seen just team has been a lot better. And one of the things that I have loved about this team and just watching this evolve is just how acclimated Obi Toppin has become on the fly to coming off the bench. And Rick remarked about it last night that he's just this great teammate and could not say enough about him. He's the type of guy with what he can do in producing and what he means to this team, and then how he acts and how he is off the floor, how he is with fans, for example. He seems like he's perfect for Indy in his spot.
Oh, you hit on it. I did a post-game event with Obi last night with season ticket holders. We were in the Salesforce Court. We probably had a good 500, season ticket holders. And Obi was tremendous. And he just loves being in Indianapolis. He loves being a part of this team. And you're right. I mean, that's been the real key, John, is when Rick Carlisle has made changes to lineups and to rotations, he has buy-in. Everybody wants to be out on the floor, and, most people want to be in the starting lineup. But these guys understand for the greater good that this is at least right now, this is how it needs to be. And it doesn't mean that you won't be on the floor in a closing situation. That's the thing that I really admire and like about Rick Carlisle, is that if you start and you're not playing particularly well that night, or the guy behind you is playing better, well, he's going to get the minutes in a closeout situation. And Obi's been tremendous. He had 12 rebounds the other night. He's had back-to-back double-figure games. Had that dunk on the missed free throw last night when Brook Lopez turned the other way and Obi went right around him. He's just been a really good asset to this team.
It's Chris Denari who joins us. The other thing that I've noticed, and it's also because Giannis brought that up after that initial win over the Bucks early in the season at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, but it looks like these guys that the Bucks have been wearing out late in games. And that's not just Giannis who talked about that, but I've seen it out of Middleton. I've certainly seen it out of Lopez, and I think we've seen it with the jump shot making ability or lack thereof with Lillard in late game situations in which he's played for the Bucks. It looks like that depth has kind of taken over in this matchup where the Pacers have won 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think the younger legs, especially out of that second unit, has really been a problem for Milwaukee. I mean, you go back to Monday, the Pacers outscored the Bucks bench 70-16. That's the largest margin of the year. And right now, I thought that Milwaukee in a couple of instances looked old. And if you think about it, Middleton's trying to come back after he's missed the better part of the last couple of years with injuries. So I think you're right. And they're trying to get as best as they can to the playoffs when you can play less players and that your rotation is a little bit different. But I would say right now, in a head-to-head situation, the Pacers bench is going to come out against the Bucks ahead more often than not. And that's something that right now is hampering Milwaukee. I think the other thing is they have a first-year coach in Adrian Griffin, longtime assistant, longtime player in the NBA, and I know will be a good coach. But he's also trying to follow up, Mike Budenholzer, who helped them win an NBA title a few years ago. So, there are a lot of things that they are going through right now. And, I think the Pacers were able to take advantage. And I think one of the most impressive things is, John, as we go back a few weeks, Ballgate, if you will, right? Milwaukee wins that game and feels like they answered a question with the little feisty Pacers team that's trying to catch them from behind. And we circled the dates of January 1 and January 3 and wanted to see, what would happen. How would the Pacers respond? How would the Bucks respond? I think the Bucks were ultimately surprised on Monday with how well the Pacers played on the road. And then to back it up again last night and really run away in the fourth quarter, I think was highly impressive.
Yeah, and then, Mathurin. You look at Mathurin, and hopefully this is the beginning of the consistency that we see him evolving into. That for this team is a night in and night out game changer if he can be just a little bit consistent at the level in which we have seen him lately.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I thought one of the best play. I mean, there were a number of highlights last night. I mean, the 4-point play by Tyrese, the behind-the-back pass to sort of cap it to a Miles 3. But I thought when it got chippy and Lillard and Mathurin were talking back and forth while Lillard was at the free throw line, and then Bennedict comes right down the floor and drains a 3, I thought the building was going to explode. So, yeah, a lot of people will say that year 2, especially after the rookie year that Mathurin had, it's always a difficult year because you're trying to reestablish what you did the year before. But we are seeing him, do a lot more, and it's beyond just scoring. I mean, the other night he had 13 rebounds with his 25 points. He's doing a lot of good things. But, yeah, this Pacers team is at its best when you have somebody of his ilk playing the way he is.
Yeah, and I got to run here in a second, but we should probably remark about the defense because all we've asked for is the defense consistently to be a little bit better. And the defense has been consistently a little bit better recently, and we have now seen where that's led.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think over the last 8 games now, in scoring defense and, defensive rating, they're right around 15. And that's more than acceptable because on the season they've been around 28 to 29. And I think you and I have talked, you got to be better defensively. You don't have to be great defensively, but you have to be much improved. And I think we've seen that over the last 2 weeks, especially in this 5-game win streak, and that's gone a long way to the Pacers doing what they've done.
Chris Denari is the voice of the Pacers. Pacers Atlanta tomorrow night. Got one on Saturday night at 7 o'clock against the Celtics, and then Celtics back at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for that, not even a home-and-home, but a back-to-back Saturday-Monday affair with Boston. Man, there's going to be a lot of fun happening. Chris, it is a great watch, per usual, and just sorry you couldn't slide down here, kind of in your hometown. I just got a picture of you back in the day in your basketball uniform, smuggling some grapes. You're smuggling the grapes in Westfield back in the day. Well done.
Yeah, those shorts were a little short back then. I was well before the Fab Five of Michigan. So, buddy. But I will definitely be on site with you sometime soon.
You got it. Thanks, Chris.
All right, thanks, John.
Chris Denari with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Brent Holverson rejoins. We'll close out the show from Crafters in Carmel on this Larceny Bourbon Locks Lunazul Tequila Shots Thursday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
At Lowe's, save big every
with JMV.
Bill, I just have one question for you. What color is an orange? Ted, you bonehead. Its color is the same as its name, just like a lemon.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Let me tell you this, Crafters in Carmel is the place to be. If you're listening to my voice right now and you have not been here, come and give it a try. Did Kravitz leave? Did I miss that?
I didn't see him leave either. He might have.
He stealthed out
He
here
looked
like
pretty
Chris
happy.
Hagan. That's like Chris Hagan stuff. Oh, is he? I don't know. Maybe. It looks like he's gone right here, though. He's going to stealth out of here. That's Brent Holverson. I'm John. Hey, if you've been here before, you know what we're talking about. Crafters here off 146 in Carmel. If you haven't, make it a note and get here and ask for Brian and the gang. They're awesome. This is our first time with our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Lunazul Tequila shots here at Crafters. And, man, it was pumping today.
It really was.
Outstanding.
I mean, that was great. I mean, 3 o'clock, people light up at the door, ready to come in, and away we went, right?
Yeah. Jimmy left, too. I didn't see Jimmy
Jimmy
leave.
left early. He left real early, yeah.
Man.
His dad was
So
with
we've
him,
had a lot of our loyal listeners that come out and join us, show up here today.
Which
That's
is always fun. It
to
makes it worth what we're doing, right?
Yep, my man. Oh, look. Udemark's in the house.
What's up, Kyle?
It was Kyle Udemark. Kyle Udemark is the former producer for us that's got a real job, I guess we would say right now. It's funny. I've seen like 3 dudes. I don't know if this is just the Carmel Westfield thing. 3 dudes that look like Udemark. I thought, man, is that Udemark? Like 3 different dudes, and then he actually walks in the door here.
Pretty wild.
Kyle Udemark, the former producer, who was an awesome guy, going to hang out.
Absolutely.
As well. We definitely got to get that dude a drink.
That's
right there.
absolutely right. We do.
All right, some final thoughts on this weekend, the final regular season, and we're out coming up again Thursday. Correct?
We are. We're going to do a playoff edition.
I love it.
To kick off playoff week, we're going to be at Parks Place Pub.
Nice.
In Fishers, right off 116th there. So right off 116th and 69. Parks Place
in the
Pub.
House.
The Mats.
The Mats are going to be in the house ready to rock, huh?
That's right. Now we're looking forward to that. It's always a good time up there, and again, not a better place to kind of talk through some playoffs. But hey, we've got a lot of like I say, good games this weekend, and games that don't mean anything, and some good bets to be had out there. John, keep your eye open for some of those incentive bets. Just Google them online. There's a lot of them out there.
Anything come to mind to you right now?
I'll tell you, there are a few that I love, and it's OBJ. I think they're going to play him. I really do. I think he's going to get out and do some action. But you got Tyler Huntley. He's going to be quarterback, so I think he's a good second quarterback. Over receptions, he needs 5 for 250,000. Over 175 yards, I don't think I'd go that high, but it'll probably be around 50. Take that over. 2 TDs might be a stretch. DeAndre Hopkins, he's one that I think definitely look at. He needs 39 yards, 7 catches, and 2 TDs, and that's 750,000 for him. Dalton Schultz, 6 catches, 107 yards.
Yep.
Singletary. A couple of Eckler. Eckler hasn't done much all year, right? But he needs 110 yards, rushing and receiving for 100K. Hey, they've not been doing anything all year. I think you'll see a lot of Eckler. I think that's a good play right there. And then the other one was Matson. Matson for Minnesota. He needs 75 rushing yards. He gets 250,000. That's where you're going to start to see people are going to get them their money, especially in those games. Now, the ones with Houston players and whatnot where there's actually going to be playing for the big win.
Yeah.
That's only if they get up and they can scheme it in. Otherwise, they're going to go for the win. They don't care about that. But these teams that are down, out, not playing for anything, those players know what they need, and those quarterbacks are going to get them some money.
I should bring this up because we will not have a show between now and then. But how about the national championship game? Last check, I believe Washington's getting 4.5 points. Taking on Michigan.
I believe that's what I saw as well.
4.5 points. Couple things before I get into your pick and mine regarding the national title game Monday is that, you may look at Michigan. And the first thing I thought is, well, the Michigan defense is going to be much different than that of Texas. However, when you look at Washington, one of the better offensive lines in college football. And obviously the way that Penix is playing.
He's looking good. Wow.
And that offense is going to be incredibly difficult even for Michigan to deal with. 4.5 points Washington
correct,
gets. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that on Monday night?
I tell you, watching those games, they were great games. I watched that. I mean, all three, the three that I watched, they were just stellar. They all came down to it. Penix, he looks really good, John. Yeah. I just don't know that
the Michigan
team
going to be too much is what you're saying?
It's going to be a great game. I mean, I think this is going to be one of those, 34-27 kind of games. I think Michigan pulls it out, and I think they get the cover. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm telling you, though, man, Penix
was zoned up, especially in that second half.
He looked good.
He throws some absolute seeds.
He's got the
and
time.
we saw that at IU in the past, but, I mean, this is just a different talent level.
It really is.
Altogether.
God, I wish the Hoosiers could have protected him to keep him.
And
he got smoked
I know
over
everybody
there.
likes Signetti now, but, man, DeBoer there, too, who's doing work. And obviously the whole timing of it and all that plays a role. But, man, that Washington team, if you love offense, you love them. And part of the issue is with Michigan is protecting the quarterback, protecting Penix. Washington's got one of those offensive lines that might be able to do that.
I think it'll be a great game.
Lay the 4.5 and take Michigan is what you're saying?
That's where I'm leaning. I'll do a little more work on that one yet, but that's where I'm leaning at. I just think they've got it. But, again, that's watching those games. I'm glad Alabama's not in it,
Yeah.
I'm glad they get too much of it. I mean, these are new teams, right? These are teams that we're going to be able to see some stuff here.
And
so
that's another reason why I kind of look at Michigan, too, is because they were able to survive Alabama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, Alabama, when you think about it, should not have even been there in the first place. And I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. They clearly did. But I'm thinking about it in terms of the Iron Bowl and Auburn playing that final play and the way that they did and, the end of that game and giving Alabama a chance. I remember we were going down to the KISS concert, and Hagan and I stopped into Tommy S.'s joint to watch the end of the Iron Bowl. And you just thought, man, you got to put Alabama away. And Michigan put Alabama away, and it kind of makes you wonder if that's not a good stair step to being able to do just the same to Washington in that national championship game. And then, what ends up happening to Jim Harbaugh? If he bounces, goes to the NFL, if he stands and stays in Ann Arbor, a lot of interesting things going to go down.
A lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this game might determine that, right? I mean, if you get that big bowl win.
Yep.
I've heard San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers, right? I mean, that's kind of the eye point that we're looking at for Harbaugh, possibly.
Yeah.
We'll see. Nice weather out there.
Yeah.
75 and sunny.
no doubt about that. All right, so again, Parks Place
Parks Place Pub
Thursday.
Next Thursday. We'll kick off the playoff edition. We'll go through everything that's going to happen this week. Again, if you're out there, you're listening, you're looking at making some bets, watch and listen to see who's playing, because that's these games, a lot of them, you don't want to take people that you don't, or take teams that you don't have all those players that you think are going to do good. So make sure you're betting on those games responsibly. You know who's playing. Go out there, win some money, and look at those player incentives.
You got that. Brent Holverson, our betting analyst. Great to have you back,
pleasure,
man.
buddy. Absolutely.
Brent and Heaven Hill Distillery, everybody. Thanks to Brian and Crafters. This has been outstanding. I so want to do this again here at 146 in Carmel. Even if you didn't make it out today, the next time you come into Crafters, make sure you tell Brian that you heard about his place on the show, too. That is awesome. Denari, Chappell, Braden Smith of the Boilers in Westfield High School. Our Larceny Bourbon Locks, Lunazul Tequila Shots, and Zak Keefer, Podcast 1075, thefan.com. Inside the Garage, Bottle Works, Bud Light Blue Friday. Tomorrow, we've got Texans Colts tickets to give away for Saturday. Hope to see you there. And a JMV takeover tomorrow night on B105.7. You guys have a great night. I'll see you at the Garage at Bottle Works tomorrow for your chance at Saturday tickets. Have a great evening.
If you're talking about it,
it is Colts Week.